Дагестан. Всем доброго утра, дня, вечера, времени суток. С вами Sabo. Мы, скорее всего, все пропустили BLIZZCON, потому что играли в другие игры замечательные. И еще раз всем привет. С вами Sabo, привет на канале. И посмотрим на записи Nintendo. Здорово. Меня нема. Я иду убирать, иду пить кофе. Я увидел в ютубе, что был BLIZZCON, и решил сделать его рестрим просто на канале. Идем заниматься своими делами. Может быть, кому интересно, на фоне, если есть возможность, может посмотреть. Это BLIZZCON, это ежегодное мероприятие, которое проводится в Лос-Анджелесе. И это BLIZZCON, это как... Ну, вернее, TennoCon, это как BLIZZCON. Это по играм Warcraft, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch. Все игры разработки студии Blizzard Entertainment. Скрафтились комната. Ну потом посмотрим Nintendo. Посмотрим. Так что... Я на телефоне иду, короче, заниматься делами по дому. Эта трансляция идет вроде бы 1:20. Даже меньше час. Покажут футаж, геймплей с Diablo 4, Overwatch, вторая часть, которая выйдет. Nintendo, спасибо тебе, что пришел. Хорошего дня всем. И хорошей вам игры, если вы играете. И я отключаю микрофон, потому что буду сейчас пылесос, тут все равно вы не услышите ничего. Включаю музычку с видео. Всем хорошего настроения, хорошего дня. И смотрим геймплей, футаж, который начнется через 16 минут. А пока послушаем замечательные треки, которые Blizzard тут и стример тот, который это занимается, включил. Мы всего лишь рестримим трансляцию, которая была 14 часов назад на канале The Game Awards. Если кому интересно, я могу ссылочку в описании кинуть. The Game Awards есть такой. По-моему, Дэвид Килли его зовут. Глава, основатель The Game Awards, который проводит каждый год тоже награждение The Game Awards, игра года. Вот на этом канале есть рестрим, стрим был по BLIZZCON. Я думаю, что это все дистанционно проводилось, потому что, ну же, ковид, там все дела. В общем, вот нам пишут как раз Diablo, Warcraft и Overwatch. В основном темы этого BLIZZCON будут. Diablo 4 в разработке, Diablo 2 Remastered, который появится в скором времени, Overwatch 2, который тоже уже скоро на подходе, я так думаю. Ну, все. Всем до встречи. Я буду на телефоне, если что. Всем пока-пока-пока-пока. Хорошего дня вам всем.
feeling of just knowing a game is right for you when you first lay eyes on it is such a great feeling.
The thing that happens is you start to feel the excitement just build up.
I'm thinking about it all the time, even in my sleep.
Incluso a veces por una misma comunidad. Te llegas a enamorar bastantísimo.
I play video games because I love stories.
Experiencing worlds that you can't experience as yourself.
I guess video games allow me to be what I can't. It's fiction, but it's not.
You can come home, log onto your PC, and disappear into a different world.
I am a part of something bigger, a part of something beautiful.
As an autistic person, video games give me a place where I could be in a world that made sense to me.
I will tell you that all of my family play video games.
Me and my brothers, we would share the computer 1 hour at a time.
저는 제 와이프랑 게임을 가장 많이 해요.
I'm really enjoying playing video games with my dad.
My children.
My little sister. That connection between video games, allowing us to converse with each other, added a lot to our relationship.
Games like the World of Warcraft let me meet people that I probably never would have.
I can honestly say I've met some of my best friends through playing games.
We have this connection that allows us to share our joys, to share our achievements, to share our growth together.
Every time I'm able to achieve something, I'm able to make myself proud.
Killing heroic Blackhand back in Warlords of Draenor was one of my favorite memories.
I managed to find that one hidden pylon with my one Mutalisk.
We beat hardcore Inferno Diablo.
I was able to hit gold in competitive in Overwatch.
I had someone say, oh, I can't lose to a girl. And I beat that guy.
So I was able to slay this warlock as a little gnome holy priest, freaking out and screaming the whole time.
Adrenaline through my body was going crazy.
Pela caminhada ter sido tão prazerosa e pela conquista ter vindo.
A gente se sentiu muito, caramba, a gente conseguiu algo incrível aqui.
I killed the Lich King! I killed the Lich King!
然后我夺冠的时候，现场的女性工作人员，包括有些男的工作人员，他们都哭了。
Many years ago, I was doing a quest in Terracar Forest, and a lovely little mage came up and said, "Would you like a hand?" They helped me for the rest of the day. We've been married now for over a decade.
Those video games filled a void. They filled the friendships that I didn't have. There isn't a huge LGBTQIA+ community in my city. So when I was able to play a video game, I was able to start talking with people who didn't really care that I was a gay male.
But video games were my escape. When I was a teenager, my dad was diagnosed with ALS, and I looked to video games as a way to escape from that sort of reality. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm just glad video games were there for me.
I'll never stop playing video games.
There's no way.
I imagine myself one day being an 80-year-old grandpa gamer.
Playing video games has shaped me. I don't think I would be who I am today.
My passion, my interest, my excitement, they belong.
Video games opened for me the world.
And because of that, I'm forever thankful.
And I can't wait to see what the next generation holds.
Welcome to BlizzCon Line, a celebration of 30 years of Blizzard communities and 30 years of Blizzard games. 30 years is so many years, and last year maybe felt like one of the longest of all. But throughout the years of Blizzard Entertainment, from 1991 to today, many of us can associate certain games with milestones in our lives. Maybe you were a little kid the first time you played The Lost Vikings. Or in high school when you first played a Diablo game. Or maybe you met your partner while you were playing World of Warcraft. That's the awesome thing about video games. They give us experiences that are relevant to the times in our lives and experiences that we carry forward with us. Games are here for us during good times, and they're here for us even when we feel alone or maybe uncertain. Games are coming home, familiar, comfortable, with a connection and a sense of belonging. And while many of us spent most of 2020 in our actual real-life homes, games became even more of a place to get away, to be free from outside concerns, even if just for a little while. So, this is pretty weird. Usually, when we start BlizzCon, the opening call is to my favorite Warcraft faction, the Alliance. Or my favorite faction, the Horde. I get confused. Usually, I'd be speaking to 40,000 of you in person at the Anaheim Convention Center and millions of you around the world. And usually, that would be a perfect way to celebrate. But nothing about the last year has been usual. The pandemic has been hard on everyone, and for many different reasons. But if there's one thing that the last year has taught us, it's that being apart physically doesn't stop us from moving forward. It doesn't stop us from connecting with our player friends around the world, diving in as warriors and heroes, and checking on each other as humans. It doesn't stop us from sharing our latest epic gaming story or celebrating those of others. Games continue to unite us. Now, to be honest, I wasn't sure how well Blizzard could work from home. There are thousands of people, all needing to work together in creating our universes, games, and experiences. Never has it felt more true that it takes a Blizzard to make a Blizzard game. And in 2020, it became clear that the magic of creating at Blizzard isn't just tied to a physical location. It's tied to the people who work here, and I continue to be so proud of each and every one of them. Thank you, Blizzard. We create these games and pour all of our energy and heart into them, but it is you, the Blizzard community, that brings them to life. And that's why BlizzConline is a celebration of you, the guild leaders, healers, DPS, tanks, innkeepers, Zerg, Terran, Protoss, Blackwatch, Shimada, the heroes of Sanctuary and of the Storm. These next few days are for you, our Blizzard community. For World of Warcraft, we'll be showing you what's next for both Shadowlands and Classic. I'm sure you're all burning in anticipation for that one. Hearthstone is getting back to its roots in a major way. We can't wait to show you how. We also have news for our Diablo community. Some of you were able to dip your toes into the depths of hell in the Diablo Immortal Technical Alpha. I really enjoyed seeing players embrace the multiplayer aspect of meeting in town. We can't wait for more of you to get your hands on it. So, it's only the beginning of the year, and already there is so much to look forward to, even though we can't yet be together in person. The Overwatch League will be kicking things off in spring, and we'll be watching closely to see if the San Francisco Shock can continue their championship run. World of Warcraft esports is back with the Arena World Championship and Mythic Dungeon International already in full swing in Shadowlands. StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3 esports are going strong with our friends at the ESL Pro Tour. And qualifiers are already underway for the first online stop of the 2021 Hearthstone Masters Tour, with the first event taking place next month. But before we get too far ahead, let's take a look one last time. Twin times were a little simpler. In the early 1990s, the internet was a baby. CD sales had finally eclipsed cassette tapes. Cassette tape, it's a rectangle piece of plastic, and there's a tape inside, and music would get recorded on, and sometimes you needed a pencil to wind it and make it tight. I know, it sounds crazy. We were all playing video games on Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, DOS, or Mac PCs. I personally was a master of config sys and autoexec bat. So many simple things in simple times. If only we could relive them.
The stage is set. The green flag drops. Let the carnage begin. Holy Toledo! What a collection! Now we're talking. What a play! Crank up the volume! Unbelievable! Whoa!
The Blizzard Arcade Collection, featuring the Lost Vikings, Rock and Roll Racing, and Blackthorn. These are ports of the games just as you remember them, allowing you to relive the original experience of all three titles in 13 different languages, with a couple of quality of life upgrades. As an example, we include very modern, cutting-edge functionality that wasn't available in the early 90s, both saving and loading of games. And for those of you who purchased any Blizzard Digital Anniversary Bundle via Battle.net, you'll automatically receive the Blizzard Arcade Collection on PC today. Now, you ready to hear about some other video games? Let's hear what's next for World of Warcraft. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. No matter where you are, World of Warcraft unites us all. Whether you're exploring the Shadowlands, classic Azeroth, or another part of the Blizzard universe, I'm glad you could make it, because we've got a lot of good stuff to show you. But first, let's start with some Covenant pride. Kyrian, take flight. Night Bay, let the hunt begin. Necrolords, to war! Vinther, let's party. The world has thrown a lot at us since the last BlizzCon, and the thing that's really kept everyone going on the WoW team has been connecting with all of you. The bonds we forge with our guilds and family and friends in WoW are powerful and real. As WoW enters its 16th year and Blizzard celebrates its 30th anniversary, we're so grateful to have the most dedicated and friendly communities in gaming. Let's recap the events in Azeroth. In WoW Classic, we fought an endless battle for South Shore and Tauren Mill. We banded together to open the gates of Ahn'Qiraj and joined forces to take down Kel'Thuzad in his floating citadel of Naxxramas. In Shadowlands, we helped our Covenant recover from the Anima drought, brought on by Sire Denathrius, master of the Vinthyr and traitor to the Pantheon of Death.
We survived the halls of Torghast and crafted legendary gear in our efforts to expel Denathrius from his castle lair. But innocent souls are still wrongfully being sent to the Maw. They face an eternity of torment, and heroes like Anduin remain chained in its depths. The jailer continues to grow in power. He's preparing to break free from the Maw and complete his plan to unmake the entire Warcraft universe. And Sylvanas, you may be wondering what she's been up to all this time. Today, we're excited to unveil our first major content update for Shadowlands, Chains of Domination.
Look around you! What makes you believe you're not just a weapon to achieve his ends?
Enough! Join our cause, or be made to serve.
Right now, you hold all the power. Make your choice, Sylvanas Windrunner.
Despite all our efforts, the Maw continues to grow. What if Denathrius' treachery is irreparable? The Primus is lost, and Bastion cannot save the Shadowlands alone.
None of this should have happened.
Perhaps the Winter Queen could.
My Archon, a living soul, seeks an audience.
A mortal?
A king. By all our measures, one who has spent his life striving for justice. One who would give anything to serve his people. One whose heart is true.
Very well. He may approach. Step forward. My Ascended have spoken of you. The king, held captive in the Maw.
That prison could not hold me forever.
Why have you come to Bastion?
You have a key that I need.
You will release this soul from your grasp.
No. He is bound to me. Just as you once sought to bind your own brother.
vessel performed its part flawlessly. 3 keys remain. Then they will see. Death was never meant to be chained.
That is so intense. I know you probably have a lot of questions about what you just saw and what it means for the next stage of your Shadowlands journey. Later today, my teammates Ian and Jeremy will be telling you more about Chains of Domination in our Shadowlands update. Please check out the World of Warcraft channel to find out more. Next, I'm excited to share our upcoming World of Warcraft charity pet program. We've heard a lot from our community about how much they love these pets and the opportunity to give to a good cause, along with ideas to make the program even better. So during this upcoming campaign, you'll be able to donate whatever amount you wish to directly support our chosen charity. Once donations reach our goal, everyone playing World of Warcraft will get a pet for their collection as a thank you, whether you were able to contribute personally or not. And to make this a fun challenge, if we reach a stretch goal, everyone gets a second pet too. And here they are. The first pet is Bananas, literally. He was originally available to a select few back in Burning Crusade era, so we're excited to give everyone a chance to adopt him. And if we reach our stretch goal, you'll also get Daisy the Sloth. She's an all-new pet who'll hang around your neck when you need a hug. Your donations during this campaign will go to support the medical humanitarian organization Doctors Without Borders, also known by their French name, Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF. They're an amazing group doing important work around the world. We're grateful to have such a generous community, and we hope you'll help support this worthy cause. We'll be sharing the details about the Charity Pet Program on the World of Warcraft website soon. So we've talked quite a bit about Shadowlands. Classic players, now it's your turn. It's my pleasure to hand off to my teammate, Holly Longdale. She's a longtime WoW player, a veteran MMO developer, and she's going to tell us what's in store for WoW Classic.
Hi, everybody. First, I'd like to thank all of you who have ever been part of the WoW community over the years. You know, online worlds like WoW have been a huge part of our lives for decades now. As a dedicated MMO fan and a developer myself, I remember hearing that Blizzard was going to be making their own MMO. And I thought, well, I guess I'll check out that beta. And sure, we all call the game WoW, but really, wow. I could not believe I got bit by the MMO bug again. I was so excited to be able to make a night elf hunter and be like that famous dark elf ranger from the books that I loved. I have to tell you, Azeroth was, and still is, a place I love to live. Since last year, I've had the great honor to work alongside the WoW Classic team to bring these nostalgic experiences back to life for longtime fans and a whole new generation of players. As a fan myself, I've had so much fun in WoW. From the simple things like drive-by buffing or making friends on that long haul from Teldrassil to Ironforge, all the way to the absolutely staggering, like when I jumped blindly through the Dark Portal and was running through Hellfire Peninsula, heard this terrifying noise, and then saw the Fell Reaver. Biggest roamer I had ever seen, and I was very glad I had feigned death in that moment. And that's the thing about WoW. These stories and experiences we all share keep us coming back time after time. With that said, I'm super excited to be able to share with you where our adventures are taking us next.
You dare enter my realm. you to this end. Take my blood and choke on it.
Death to the outsiders!
I'll turn your world upside down!
You are not prepared!
Brings back so many memories, right? Like exploring the fungal forests of Zanger Marsh, or being awestruck at the chaotic magic alive in Netherstorm, the Draenei in Exodar, the Blood Elves in Silvermoon. I love playing them both. Do you choose to enlist the Aldor or the Scryers in your quest to fight the Legion? And of course, we can't forget gathering all your friends to fight Illidan at the top of the Black Temple. I can't wait to relive it all with you. Since the team first set out on their own quest to bring the original WoW back to life, we have learned a ton about what players are expecting from this kind of experience. We've also learned when to keep things just as they were and where we all might be open to some changes. We're bringing all these lessons into Burning Crusade Classic, with our primary goal to bring back the same feeling you had when you faced the Fel Reaver for the first time, or when you were digging through piles of Felhound poop. Of course, we can't get this right without you, our incredible community. Soon, you'll be able to revisit Outland yourself when beta starts and tell us what you think. Later, all WoW Classic players are going to be presented with a meaningful choice for each one of your beloved characters. Do you want to move on into Burning Crusade Classic? Or do you want to stay in the original Classic era forever? Whatever you decide, you can do it all with your one WoW subscription. Now, I know I've thrown a lot at you, but don't worry. We'll be getting into the details in our panel later today. So stick with us. We'll make sure you are prepared. And now we're going to hear what's coming up in Hearthstone.
Greetings. We're truly excited to share with you everything that's coming to Hearthstone this year. But first, let's take a quick look back at the year of the Phoenix. We added our first new class, the Demon Hunter, and ventured into the ruthless Outlands. Then we went to Scholomance Academy and got to explore dual class cards and their powerful synergies. And with our third expansion of the year, we brought you Hearthstone's biggest update ever, alongside the menacing old gods in Madness at the Dark Moon Fair. We launched a brand new game mode, Duels, that saw more than 10 million matches on its first day. We also introduced our long-awaited achievement system and made a significant overhaul to the rewards and progression within the game. Now, it's time to say farewell to the Year of the Phoenix and see what's in store for Hearthstone this year. Welcome to the Year of the Griffin. Over the last couple of years, we've made big changes to Hearthstone. Throughout the Year of the Griffin, we want to keep delivering fun, new experiences and make sure that the tens of millions of you playing Hearthstone are always excited to log in. First up, we'll be giving the standard format its biggest shakeup ever, with the launch of the Core Set later this year. The Core Set replaces the old Basic and Classic sets with a collection of 235 cards made up of some of the best from throughout the years, as well as 29 awesome brand new cards. And the best thing about the Core Set is that it's entirely free. So there's never been a better time to get into Hearthstone. Here are 3 of Hearthstone's legendary dragons, reimagined to feel more up-to-date and competitive for modern-day Hearthstone. Ysera the Dreamer. You'll finally receive her full arsenal of dream cards right away. She's a nightmare for your opponents. Malygos the Spellweaver. He'll fill your hand with spells and is a powerful late-game play, worthy of the aspect of magic. And finally, everyone's favorite black dragon, Deathwing. He's still as destructive as ever, but timed correctly, he won't leave you empty-handed. We'll also be launching a brand new format, Classic, where you can play Hearthstone as it was when it first launched. The Classic format will be fully supported, complete with ranks and rewards using Hearthstone's original set of cards. So, if you want to relive the old school experience, then Classic is the place for you. With Classic revisiting the past, now let's take a look to the future and explore the first expansion of the Year of the Griffin.
For a hero of the Horde, all roads lead to the crossroads. You have come for adventure, but the Barons wants to break you. Your axe must be sharp. Your wits must be keen. And your heart must be mighty. Strength and honor. This is who we are.
That's right. We're headed to one of Warcraft's most iconic locales, the Barrens, and we'll come face to face with the heroes that inhabit it, starting with one of the Horde's most iconic and well-known characters, a fierce loyalist, one-time war chief that embodies the honor, loyalty, and spirituality of the Horde, Shadowhunter Vol'jin. Shadowhunter Vol'jin is a neutral legendary that allows you to either bolster your own board or weaken that of your opponents. And to celebrate the announcement of Forged in the Barrens, this card is available for free for everyone later today. So log into Hearthstone and claim your free copy of Shadowhunter Vol'jin. And as a bonus, we're also giving away the brand new 30 Years of Blizzard card back. Next, we have another hero of the Horde who is making his first appearance in Hearthstone. The legendary Blade Master, Samuro, featuring the new keyword, Frenzy. Frenzy activates the first time a minion takes damage and survives. In Samuro's case, this can be used to clear your opponent's board. Heroes of the Horde, like Samuro, are famous for their combat prowess, but others, like Thrall, are known for their powerful elemental magic. Take a look at this new shaman spell, Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning is a spell in a new cycle of cards that rank up and become more powerful when you have 5 and 10 mana, ensuring that they're always useful at every stage in the game. You'll also notice that they're categorized as nature spells. With Forged in the Barrens, we'll be permanently introducing spell schools across the entire game, which enables a whole host of exciting new strategies. And don't worry, members of the Alliance will be featuring some of your most beloved heroes and locales later this year. But what I love most about the Warcraft universe is its amazing characters. And our final announcement is our most ambitious addition to Hearthstone yet. It introduces a brand new way to play with your favorite heroes. Hearthstone Mercenaries. Mercenaries features strategic RPG gameplay, where you build teams consisting of some of the most iconic heroes and villains from the Warcraft universe, including timeless characters like the infamous Sylvanas Windrunner. And Ragnaros, the elemental lord of fire. You can also expect to see some of Hearthstone's fan favorites, like the unstoppable Devilsaur, King Crush, and the ever-growing Gruul the Dragon Slayer. You'll lead them in battle through highly replayable roguelike missions, where the map is randomly generated every time you play, and each node represents a unique challenge for your team to take on. Your heroes gain levels, new abilities, equipment, and can even evolve into more powerful versions of themselves. We're thrilled to finally show you Hearthstone Mercenaries. It is scheduled to launch later this year, and we'll have more to share with you down the road. Everything you've seen today is just a taste of what's coming in the Year of the Griffin. So don't forget to tune in to our deep dive panel after the opening ceremony, where we'll share more details on the core set, the new classic format, Forged in the Barrens, and our plans for Battlegrounds and Duels, as well as our upcoming single-player content. I want to thank the team for their amazing work. And on behalf of all of us at Hearthstone, we want to thank the many millions of you who play our game. Your dedication and support is what drives us to make awesome updates and pursue ambitious and fun ideas. We can't wait to kick off the Year of the Griffin with all of you, and we hope to see you in the game soon. Next up, you'll get an update on all things Diablo.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for joining us. I am so excited to kick off the Diablo segment of our show, and I am honored to be here on behalf of all of our Diablo teams to share the news and updates we have in store for you today. We've got a lot of Diablo to cover, and I hope you'll agree with me that it's a great time to be a member of this community. All right, let's kick things off with Diablo 4. We first shared our game with you during BlizzCon of 2019, and we've been truly humbled by your response. We've kept in touch through quarterly updates and sincerely appreciate the thoughts and valuable feedback you've provided as we unveil more and more of the game and share in its development. After all, Diablo belongs to you as much as it belongs to us. Most recently, we teased an update to our campfire screen, and savvy fans, of course, understood that we meant more than just the character lighting and fire visual effects. That's right. Today, we're happy to announce a brave new soul joining the barbarian, the sorcerer, and the druid on this dangerous journey back to Sanctuary. A class is one of the most exciting things you can announce in a Diablo game. This one is especially exciting to me, as it's a re-envisioning of one of the first classes to ever appear in the series. Let's have a look.
Your prayers do not fall on deaf ears. Just now, they are being heard. There is justice within the light, but you have to be patient. Now, pray with me. May Akarat guide and protect me.
May Akarat guide and protect me.
May he shepherd my soul
May he shepherd my soul.
and grant it mercy.
And grant it mercy.
What are you doing here? This is not the time.
But this is confession. And I have sinned. I was a thief who stole from those more fortunate. I strayed from your light and found my trade in the shadows. They call it murder. I say, job well done. her murderer, father. Will Akarat save me?
You mock our light. But those monsters were a scourge upon my flock. And you were the answer to their prayers.
Then we are settled. And you owe me.
The name you seek is... Thank the heavens for you.
Heavens? I assure you, Father, the heavens didn't send me.
The sound of that ear getting pierced by the hook is so brutal. I feel like it's gonna haunt me for a long time. I've been a huge fan of the Rogue ever since the original Diablo. Even seeing them come back as NPCs and mercenaries in Diablo 2's Rogue Encampment served as a great bridge between the games. With the setting of Diablo 4 being a larger world than we've ever played in before, we're excited to show you not just what the successors to the original rogues in the series have been up to since the fall of their order, but also what some of the other rogues in the world of Sanctuary might look like. The mantra for Diablo 4 has been customization first, and the Rogue takes this to a whole new level. From the beginning, the Rogue has been an incredibly flexible class, able to adapt to any situation. Our goal is to let you create the kind of rogue that you want to play. Whether it's an unrivaled archer modeled after the original Sisterhood, or a cloak and dagger rogue from the darkest alleys of Chaldeum, in Diablo 4, you will have the freedom to create the rogue that you imagine by customizing the looks, the background, and the playstyle of your character. Please stick around for our segment later today, where I'll be joined by other members of the Diablo 4 team to share a closer look at the Rogue class, as well as some of the open world gameplay that we're bringing to the game. Spoilers, those severed ears are not just for show. But Diablo 4 is not the only Diablo game we're talking about today. If you're looking for an authentic Diablo experience on mobile, we've got you covered. Diablo Immortal has everything you'd expect from a AAA action RPG. From the visceral combat and epic loot to an all-new story, bridging the gap between the events of Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Later today, you can join the Immortal team, where they'll talk about some of the things they've learned from their recent alpha test and what's next for the game. But that's still not all. We have one last bit of very exciting Diablo news to cover. When you hear us talk about the classes, the items, or the stories of the early Diablo games, you may have picked up on the absolute reverent tone we reserve for that golden era of Diablo. Maybe you share that love of the classics, and just hearing us talk about them makes you want to take on Mephisto or Baal one more time. Or maybe even for the first time. After all, some of our favorite moments happened a long time ago, and not just in Sanctuary years? If so, we have a special surprise for you today. Let's check it out.
How was it not yours, a wanderer? Now you know what I seek, Marius. Were these the demons from... Don't do it! It seems to unturned. Are not acceptable. Look what they've done to me.
Arise, Diablo, Lord of Terror.
Though this be our darkest hour, it may yet be your greatest moment.
After more than 20 years, the Dark Wanderer has returned. And once again, he travels east, always east. Diablo 2 is a landmark game for Blizzard. Diablo 2 Resurrected is a full HD remaster of both the original game and the expansion, Lord of Destruction. It takes the 2D sprite-based classic that we love and brings it into the present in 3D, utilizing up-to-date graphical rendering and lighting technologies. It also includes modernizing all 27 minutes of cinematics, recreated shot for shot with the explicit intention of preserving both the look and the pacing of the original movies. Blizzard has a long history of games that we're proud of. And when we think about Diablo 2, we think about it as a definitive pillar in our foundation. Now, it's funny to think that some of you weren't even born when D2 was released, which makes it all the more important that we deliver an authentic experience wherever you play. We want everyone to relive their memories or experience the game for the very first time on their platform of choice. And so we're excited to bring Diablo 2 Resurrected to PC and console, along with cross-progression. And for those of you who are in love with the original, and you just wish it worked more seamlessly on modern computers, you can bring back all of that nostalgia exactly as you remember, and enjoy the game in its original 2D form, much like we did with StarCraft Remastered. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Later today, Diablo speedrunner Mr. Llama will host a roundtable with members of the development team on the dedicated Diablo channel. If you are a Diablo 2 fan, I encourage you to take a look. So, from Diablo 2 Resurrected, to Burning Crusade Classic, to the Blizzard Arcade Collection, it's a whole lot of looking back. And while we have teams dedicated to bringing these timeless experiences into your hands, it's actually a very small percentage of our developers working on these projects. Far more people are working on the future of Blizzard. And in addition to what we'll be talking about during the show, we can't wait to tell you even more about our plans over the course of this year and beyond. If you had asked us 30 years ago what gaming would look like today, None of us could have predicted the current Blizzard lineup of games. The advances in technology are one thing, but it's really what those advances have enabled that's even more incredible. If you think about the people who play games and the communities that have grown up around them, the way people can connect instantly, no matter where they are in the world, the way people are increasingly able to express their identity and celebrate who they are through their favorite games, communities, and platforms. The explosion of things like streaming, cosplay, and esports. It would have been hard to imagine any of that 30 years ago. And at Blizzard, that is what excites us about the next 30 years. There is so much that we're working on. And some of it you already know about. The rest, we look forward to talking to you about it when the time is right. Just like the real world, the worlds of Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, and Hearthstone are diverse, expansive, and full of potential. We are not only iterating on the experiences that you've come to expect from us, we're also exploring different ways to express our worlds and welcome more players from more places into them. And we aspire to continue to lead on priorities like accessibility and toxicity control, and to continue supporting causes that have a positive impact on the real world. We want to continue to bring those same feelings of joy and achievement that we all felt when we first defeated the Lich King, or beat Diablo on hardcore mode. Because when we geek out on those experiences with others, we can't help but see the similarities between us and feel what's possible when we play together. Of course, there are new Blizzard worlds that we haven't visited quite yet. And when we do finally unveil those games and experiences, our hope is that you will see in them what we do. That no matter who you are or where you're from, they are spaces where you can create new stories, forge new friendships, and make memories worthy of lasting a lifetime. And through it all, our mission statement of being dedicated to creating the most epic entertainment experiences ever, along with our core values, led by gameplay first, will continue to guide our way. So on behalf of everyone at Blizzard, thank you for being on this journey. For me personally, it is the honor of my professional life to serve you, and the honor of all of us at Blizzard to be the caretakers of the worlds that you play in. We are so excited for what's to come this year, next year, and the next 30 years. Now, what's coming next for the show? Well, it depends on where you watch. For those of you looking for an update on Overwatch, check out the behind-the-scenes look into the development of Overwatch 2 over on their dedicated channel right after the conclusion of opening ceremonies. There, you'll hear about Overwatch 2, new content, new features, including new maps, hero missions, talent trees, and more of what we think will make Overwatch 2 a unique gameplay experience. For World of Warcraft, Diablo, and Hearthstone, you'll get a closer look on their respective channels. And on the dedicated strategy channel, some StarCraft legends will be going head-to-head in epic competition. Once again, welcome to BlizzCon Line. Be good to one another. Welcome home.
Хьюстон. Хьюстон. Давай еще посмотрим геймплей. 4.08. Там это какая-то укороченная версия была. 7 прила. BLIZZCON. Diablo 4. Геймплей. Час 52. Час 52. Час 02. О-о-о. Опа. Вот это я и хотел посмотреть. А меня слышно? Вау, 40. Блин, я жду эту игру капец. Играл в третий Diablo, второй Diablo, первый Diablo. Проходил по 100 раз, блин, его. У меня еще интернета не было дома даже. Не было интернета. Я играл в Diablo 2. Вот его будет Remastered. Ремейк будет Diablo 2. А вот сейчас показывают геймплей. Это геймплей Diablo 4. Который выйдет непонятно когда. Через год или через 2. Неизвестно вообще. А вот Diablo 2 ремейк уже они его, я так думаю, в этом году выпустят. Там еще интересный факт, там Warcraft 3 выходил Reforge. Не знаю, как он вообще вам. Я знаю, любителям Доты точно понравится Warcraft. Warcraft 3. А может и нет. Офигенный друид в обороте. Новое меню, хай смотрю. 1, 2, 3, 4. Мышка. О! Инвентарь какой-то. Офигеть. Там у него какая-то мана, типа мана. Или гнев, не знаю. Там жизни. Это друид. Это геймплей с друида. Nintendo. Меня слышно? Прием. Всем привет. Да, я тут уборкой немножко пылесосил. Афроамериканский друид? У нас афроамериканский друид? Или это варвар? Да, ну тогда сейчас иду дальше пылесосить. Не, воду я потом наберу. Так если бойлер включенный, уже нельзя пылесосить. Чё, Nintendo, там рубаешь? Warframe? BT, привет, если ты здесь. Тоха. Алексей к нам заходил сегодня. Всем привет, хорошего вам дня. Я иду, наверное, дальше, надо там доубирать. Воды принести надо домой. Да я так на фоне включил стрим, просто BLIZZCON был 2021. И... Ну, меня больше интересует Diablo игра. Но есть еще Overwatch 2, который должен скоро выходить. Hearthstone, он бесплатный, в принципе, на телефоны и на компы. World of Warcraft, кто играет, там дополнение вышло новое, они показывали. Прикинь, до сих пор 20 лет игре, наверное, и они до сих пор эти дополнения выпускают. А вон, они в коопе играют. Вовчики с ним бегают. Ну, Diablo прародитель жанра, это изометрия. После Diablo выходили и Titan Quest, и Sacred, и Dungeon Siege, и потом уже через много лет Pass of Exile вышел. Много очень игр клона, подобные Diablo, получили тоже огромный успех. Но главное все-таки иконой и каноном все-таки является, я думаю, Diablo, серия игр Diablo от Blizzard. Если кто играл в Diablo 3, то она такая более, там такие тона теплые в игре. Она такая более мультяшная, что ли. Ну, не то чтобы мультяшная, а просто такие более теплые тона. А тут, в 4-й, я вижу, они возвращаются к истокам, и она такая более реалистичная, преобладают серые тона, более мрачные тона. Такая вот была Diablo 2, она такая была мрачноватая. Не знаю точно, какой движок использоваться будет. По идее, тот же движок, что и в Diablo 3. Такой же движок. Также они показали на BLIZZCON Diablo Immortal, который будет выходить на мобильное устройство, iPhone, там Android. Я этот геймплей, игровой процесс не видел. Честно, не видел. Я давно не следил за этой информацией, а BLIZZCON как раз мне напомнил об этой замечательной игре. Какой-то более медленный процесс за друида. Что-то просто низкий уровень, потому что скорость атаки еще не сильно большая. Превращается в медведя и в волка. Вервольфа и медведь это у нас. Тоже оборотень. Оборотень, медведь, оборотень. Интересно. Показали бы еще бы за сорка Некромант. Некромант у нас есть в Diablo 3. Но тут они взяли, вернули друида в 4-м. Со старта причем. С самого начала. То есть не как дополнение.
The boy with the lantern. Show me the
Rampage. First blood. Такой Дота. Nintendo, Дота. В Доту не игра. Ну тут будет варвар, друид, сорк и еще кто-то. Воин, наверное. Паладин. Ну прикольно. Я поиграл. Дота! Кто сказал Дота? Сейчас нет игры удаленной. Не, ты говоришь, что ты Rampage. Рейдж записал? Он, блин, сколько? 50 гигов весит. 50 гиг этот Рейдж. А он тебя, ты как, играть можешь в него вообще?
It's completely flooded. We should find another way.
Forgive me, my son.
Да, Рейдж.
There is no other way.
40 гиг. Угу. Ну нормально.
Full nets tomorrow, and every day that follows. None go hungry while I draw breath. Flesh for flesh. I have paid your price.
Да, круто. 40 FPS есть на низких. Ну 40 FPS это можно при 40 FPS. Более-менее нормально. Самое главное, чтобы не лагало. Потому что когда лагает и фризит, это ну, некомфортно никак играть. 40 FPS, 30-40 FPS это вполне себе нормально. Ну в Destiny, вот когда я стримлю Destiny, у меня где-то 30-40 FPS. Отлично. Интересно. Похоже на Doom, на Far Cry и немножко, может быть, на Destiny. Ну, Rage 2, который в Epic Games сейчас раздают. Да, не забывайте, какой есть Epic Games Launcher, забирать игры каждую неделю. Epic Games раздает бесплатно. То ли инди-игру, то ли AAA проект, как сейчас Rage 2. Они в свое время давали и Ассасинов, и Metro Redux, Last Light Redux. Они давали Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Kingdom Deliverance, Battlefront Arena. Ладно, я это самое. Иду дальше там. Немножко еще поубираю. Буду на телефоне. Главное потом не забыть микрофон включить. Или не выключать уже. Оба, экзот выпал. А ну покажи экзот. Ты ж покажи. Друид, блин. Покажи экзот, блин. Выпал экзот, но он его не показывает. Ты ж покажи экзот. Так, скиллуха. Скиллуху качай. Давай. Таланты. О, это уже что-то такое, что новенькое. Такого не было. Понятно. Характер. Не, это скиллы. Скиллы. Стакаются обратно. Да, скрытый. Зачем ты это показываешь, олень? Покажи экзот. Ну, такие же предметы. Прикольно сделано. Такие же иконки, такие же практически предметы, как Diablo 3. Ну, посох ему выпал. Ну, прикольно, мне нравится. Экзот покажи, что сделал брежу.
I fear for the stone of Lyzren atop Kainadar to the north. I have communed with it for decades, but my body...
Warcraft. What of Warcraft?
What happened? What did you see?
The boy with the lantern showed me his fate. He was sacrificed to a drowned witch. She wanted your son next.
Aaron fell into a sleep shortly after you left.
Бити, Прива. Тоха. Хорошего дня.
What's happening?
Я иду дальше, я... Там надо мне воды принести еще. А уже после этого BLIZZCON я уже потом Rampage запустим. Скачиваешь? А, ну пока скачаешь как раз. Нормально. Как вам вообще изометрия? Как вам Diablo? Может быть... Но она, блин, она дорогущая. Она ж платная. Она же не бесплатная. Blizzard вообще бесплатный. У них только Hearthstone бесплатный. Карты вот эти вот. Жаль, там нет нету мультиплеера. Так, народ, я на телефоне иду дальше, там доубираю. Еще воды принять. Потом можем уже нормально, полноценно с вами в рейдж тут попробуем уже после BLIZZCON. После этого, пока трансляция будет, сколько тут еще минут она будет? А, еще дофига! 50 минут будет. 50 минут игрового геймплея. Вроде нема. Разве у Blizzard StarCraft 1 не бесплатный? А, ну да. StarCraft 1, да. StarCraft 1 бесплатный? StarCraft 1 бесплатный. Ну, StarCraft 1, значит, и Hearthstone бесплатный. А все Diablo, даже 2-я, 3-я, до сих пор платные. Warcraft тот же. Warcraft. World of Warcraft. Там платная подписка, по-моему. Онлайн. До сих пор, прикинь. Вов. Ну, World of Warcraft. Я когда был в АФК, я все время в него играл. Ну и третий Warcraft. А, да? Третий Warcraft? А, так ты шаришь? StarCraft 1, Warcraft 3. Значит, по идее, BT ты и доту должен любить, как бы. Ну, по идее. Обычно вот эти вот Warcrafтеры, StarCrafтеры, им дота типа нравится. Ну и наоборот, я думаю, я не знаю, может быть, я не прав. Nintendo, вот Nintendo в доту там шпиляет там много уже. Человека часов наиграл. Но по идее, Nintendo бы тоже бы нравился Warcraft 3 и StarCraft. Но я не знаю, Nintendo, ну, вот Nintendo должен сказать. Хз. Это ж все герои из Warcraft 3, это по сути в Dota, это они мутировали в Dota 2, там. С них уже там... Из тех героев, которые в Warcraft 3, они перекочевали в Доту. Так же самое с Diablo, со вселенной Blizzard. Что это такой плотненький друид? Такой, он не голодает. Это чё? Я сначала не понял, это варвар или это друид? А это оказался друид. Перекачанный, блин. Дядька шкафи. Хоккеист, блин, стрику здоровый. Вин Дизель нервно курит. Тит я не в том ноуте слабом еще играл. В первую доту. Это тоже Warcraft 3. Угу. Ну это ж карта 3 коридора. Карта 3 коридора. Это, по сути, дота. Ну, то есть было, короче, смотрите, как появилась дота. Ну, примерно я попытаюсь объяснить. Был Warcraft 3. Там была сетевая игра, типа локальная. Они назывались доты. Это 3 коридора. Нет, это не я играю, это запись геймплея человека. Это рестрим. Рестрим запись. И китаец один там, по-моему, китайцы. Они не запатентовали Blizzard. Короче, там был редактор карт. Редактор карт. Китаец один сделал 3 коридора. И он себе ее запатентовал, прикинь. И сделал Доту 2, мазафака. Ну, Доту. И все, и Blizzard обкакалась. Ну, извините. И с того времени уже все запатентованное должно быть. Как-то появилась Дота. И Дота стала еще более популярная игра. Потом этот китаец, по-моему, продал Valve. Безумно популярная игра стала. Дота. Нет, это не я играю, это YouTube. Это запись. Это запись YouTube. Геймплей. Это геймплей Diablo. Геймплей Diablo 4, который еще выйдет не скоро. Это дали, видно, какую-то демку поиграть журналистам. Вчера проходил BLIZZCON в Лос-Анджелесе. Мы недавно смотрели, ну, REASTREAM я врубил на канале. Только что-то про Overwatch ничего не показали. Странно. Там полная трансляция 4 часа идет. Полная трансляция 4 часа. Посмотрим. Overwatch. Overwatch 2. Когда выйдет? Геймплей трейлер. Overwatch 2 Gbайт New Track Abilities. Overwatch 2 геймплей. Вот Overwatch. Но это я не знаю. Официальный трейлер с IGN. BLIZZCON 2019. А мне интересно... BLIZZCON 2021. Уже 2 года прошло, алё, на секундочку. Вот, full presentation. А вот презентация, смотрите, Overwatch.
Welcome everybody to BlizzCon. We know that you all want to hear more about Overwatch 2.
More about Overwatch 2. Смотрите. Смотрите сегодня.
And why?
Everybody.
More about Overwatch 2.
We lost Scott.
It's off to a good start.
This is going great.
We've been assembling one of the best teams that I have ever worked with.
I'm nervous.
And I'm so proud of the progress that we have made together.
Я так горжусь тем прогрессом, который мы имеем в Overwatch.
Coming forward, boom, boom, this starts to spin. The scale and the scope of this game have meant that we've needed to grow substantially.
We have to. Sorry. Let me start. Overall, I think we've done incredibly well as a team moving to work from home.
Oh, shadow play.
О, это будет сюжетка в Overwatch.
But the team is really putting everything
Nintendo красавчик, потом посмотрим комнату, которая сделалась. Готово. Новые герои в Overwatch. Круто. Но Overwatch классная игра, очень динамичная в плане мультиплеера. У нас Глеб, Серж, 7-й играет.
You can invest in your heroes and grow them over time. I'm super geeked out about Overwatch.
А больше я не знаю, кто у нас на канале Overwatch играет. А, Хикару играет Overwatch.
There are some things that we just can't do without a sequel.
А что это за Санта? Санта в доспехах.
Thank you so much for your patience so far, and I hope you enjoy this behind-the-scenes look at Overwatch 2.
PvP, new maps and role update.
All of our players at home, they want to see one of the new maps.
Это, я так понял, разрабы. Это разрабы Overwatch.
Really? I can just like.
Это как
I can just
как
talk
DevStream,
about
это
anything that I want to.
Yes.
You're serving this up to the guy that is like unintentionally leaked information in past interviews.
Давайте там, народ, всем хорошей игры.
We can do it officially now.
Okay. So one of the maps that I'm most excited for in Overwatch 2 is our Rome map.
Ну, мне интересна Overwatch, в принципе, игра. Но Diablo я больше, конечно, сам больше ожидаю.
So we're having a lot of fun coming up with the Overwatch version of Rome.
We wanted a very romantic, sort of this powerful feeling of old world architecture. One of the most exciting things for me is the early building of these maps, where we get to sit down together with key people from the environment team, level designers, effects groups. We'll spend some time talking about moments in the game that we really want to see, like the Colosseum or a grand view of the hills of Rome in the backdrop. And then we'll go back and do a paint over, or we'll do a concept painting of certain things based on that.
We try to draw inspiration from as many different sources as possible. For example, one of our environment artists had just taken a trip to Rome, and he returned with thousands of pictures and was so excited to work on a map set in Italy.
There's a lot of ancient architecture in Rome that represents the empire that it used to be. So we brought some of that back. Some of the things that are destroyed in real life, we kind of rebuilt in a kind of an Overwatch style.
It's one of the most beautiful pieces of environment art that I think we've made for the entire game, and it just absolutely took my breath away.
Can we reveal more maps?
Yes, Scott. Scott, why don't you have the honor? Why don't you reveal, like, is there an artified, like, let's pick an artified one.
I know what map I want to talk about. It's the one that I just get super excited about. New York City. New York City is just an amazing Overwatch location.
We're really striving to make it as authentic as possible while still putting this Overwatch spin on it.
There's a lot of amazing buildings and architecture pieces that just, especially for artists, stands out a lot, and they usually use this kind of Art Deco style from the 1920s, 1950s.
We started in an area that's a little bit like the Village. There's some smaller shops there, there's a fire station, little pizza places and things that people that are familiar with New York City will either recognize or maybe see the reference that we're trying to make with some of our different locations. It feels like something you haven't seen in other games before because it's uniquely Overwatch.
Well, we should move on, otherwise we just have to reveal more maps. So we were talking about PvP, and you know, one thing that I think is really interesting about PvP in Overwatch 2 is some of the philosophical changes we're making to the approach.
PvP feels different and new. We're upgrading our combat feel. The roles are playing differently. When it comes to all new maps, it's a pretty big departure from where we are on live right now. So I can't wait to see where we end up with it by the time we launch this thing.
We're also experimenting with the idea we call role passives, which are passive abilities that a hero can have based on what role they are. For example, currently in our internal builds, the tank heroes all have knockback reduction against them, and they also generate less ultimate charge for enemies that are shooting at them. Damage dealing heroes have a movement speed bonus, which is great for flanking around the map. And healing heroes, support heroes have automatic healing that kicks in after they haven't taken damage for a while, very similar to Mercy's passive, but a little bit of a lower rate.
One of the more shocking changes that we've been exploring in Overwatch 2 PvP is a change to the tank role entirely. That's applied to all of the tanks. We want to try to make them more toe-to-toe brawlers and less characters that just stand back and protect other people.
So, for example, for Reinhardt, we've given him 2 charges of Fire Strikes, so he can throw Fire Strikes a lot more aggressively and more often. Also, his charge, he's able to cancel it now, and you can steer it more aggressively, so you can, you know, not quite turn a corner, but you can definitely more accurately pin targets. And because you can cancel it, it allows you to use it much more aggressively and, you know, really go after those key targets without feeling like you're going to sacrifice, you know, all of your positioning, everything to get there. He's almost more terrifying now with this, be able to unleash his full arsenal more often than kind of just being the guy with a shield.
The changes to Reinhardt that we're trying, and they might not ship, that's just the reality, but the changes that we're trying right now are to try to embrace more of that instinct that players have when they want to play a big burly character that looks aggressive and feels like it should be aggressive.
Shortly after BlizzCon, we spun up this group, our combat field group, to really just work on what happens when a player holds the trigger.
We're putting a ton of effort into looking at all of our characters and trying to give them even a more visceral weapon feel.
From sound to VFX to animation to the design of these units, all new sounds for a lot of our weapons in the game, and a whole new sound system that's driving it. And we didn't just level up a unit, we leveled up the rest of the game.
When we first started working on Overwatch, you know, we spent quite a bit of time working on gunfire sounds and just general combat feel to make it feel really awesome. We're revisiting pretty much everything. Nothing's off the table, so we're looking at even kind of small things such as quick melee attacks that every hero has. So they have kind of new audio pass and a new kind of feel and visual effect when you hit things.
One of the bigger efforts we're undertaking for Overwatch 2 is what we're calling our Weapon 2.0 sound packs. What this is a big overhaul to the weapon systems in the game. That means the way the gun feels in your hands. You could feel the ammo running out as you're getting lower on the clip. We've really tried to amplify those sounds to better encapsulate the gameplay and the gunplay that comes with Overwatch 2. Another key for the weapons was getting them to feel like they're in the environment. This meant working with convolution reverb. It's a new system that we've implemented into Overwatch. It's a way that we can capture the acoustics of an environment and transport it onto the sounds that we're using. So we went and captured tales of guns in different environments through our weapon shoots.
Показывают, как звуки снимали оружие. Как звуки оружия снимали, смотри, в реале,
and then we
с автоматом,
cut them and applied it so that we can support a lot more environments. Now we're supporting
Были бы день, я бы первую часть
urban, outdoor, warehouse tales, tight
там надо
tunnels,
смотреть,
small rooms,
у них бывают
and it gives a
скидки
lot more presence to the
50%,
weapons and the way
и
that
она,
they react
получается,
in the
стоит
world.
400 рублей.
Has evolved a lot since Overwatch 1 came
Может
out.
стоить,
On top of
бывает.
that, I think we really want to push the visceral nature of how we do combat.
Надо
So we
смотреть,
focused
когда
a lot,
скидки у
not
них
just
там.
on the wonderful sound effects, but also with how the gun moves as you shoot. You know, so you can really feel every single shot leaving the chamber. And there's a lot of subtle little tweaks we have to do on the gameplay engineering side to make that feel really visceral. Everything from making sure that the camera shakes are crisp, making sure that if you get shot, you know exactly these tight indicators show up on the outside of your reticle. All these things play into making the game feel not just tight and responsive, but also modern and up to date. Take 76, for example. What we wanted to do in Overwatch 2 with his weapon was make it really feel incredibly powerful, and that happens with a bunch of different elements that mix together. But it really feels like the gun is almost just outside of your control. A lot of that comes down to this camera shake technology, where every time you fire the weapon, you want to feel like it's running through your entire body, and the camera shake gives that extra bite to every single shot out of the chamber. It makes him feel really great.
You guys got a sneak peek of Sojourn from last BlizzCon. She's been under development for quite a while, and she's actually quickly at this point become a lot of people's favorites in-house.
Я скоро приду, иду воду набирать.
Overwatch, when it was originally created,
Nintendo за главного.
from a gameplay standpoint,
я успел. Nintendo за главного поглядывай одним глазком сюда.
We thought there was a weapon that was kind of missing that would be a lot of fun to play with, and that's a railgun. It's so much fun in the playtest to have this really powerful shot that can, rip through enemies if you really are accurate with it. She's all about that aim skill. So if you got that aim skill, you'll love her.
We're still exploring new game modes, and we're also reevaluating older game modes that people are more critical of. We're of the mindset maybe 2CP doesn't exist in Overwatch 2, and maybe there's a new cool game mode that replaces it. We really want Overwatch 2 to feel like the next evolution, a true sequel to the first game, not an add-on. It's not a small part. It's not an extension of the original game. This is an evolution and a replacement to the original game, and I think it's exciting. Hero missions are probably one of the things that's the hardest to wrap your head around if you've never played one of them.
The goal around hero missions is for these to be this co-op PvE experience.
I personally only play competitive mode. Like, I'm all about that competition. And I have friends that they don't want to do that at all. So I'm really looking forward to a game that I can play hours and hours with my friends who aren't in competitive, and it's also something that I'm interested in.
Hero missions are the content that people are playing as they are leveling up their heroes. And so for a system like this to really sing, you need a lot of mission. We don't want players to feel like they're just in this grind to get to the top.
And there's a lot of really, really good back-end technology that we're exploring so that the heroes are constantly bringing their personality and some light story to these hero missions as well.
The goal is to make as many as possible, hundreds of hero missions. We've explored a lot of different ways of getting to that much content. Still have like different sets of enemy units that people will be fighting against, and there's different hero mission types. At the same time, hero missions can take place in all of the multiplayer maps that we've done, and we're also adding new spaces onto some of these maps.
It's a huge challenge for the art team. We take maps that a lot of people love and recognize, and we have to add a lot more art and level design to it.
In this one hero mission playtest, we came up to an area in Kings Row that usually has a gate on it. Suddenly that gate opened and I saw a new area of Kings Row that I had never seen before.
You may be playing a payload game type, and the payload may decide to take this new route instead of going the usual route.
That was really, really cool. It was like this eye-opening special moment.
Lan, our lead tech artist on the environment side, very early on our own free time, made a prototype of a sandstorm on the Temple of Anubis map.
And at the time, we didn't know what we wanted to do with that, but it looked awesome.
We looked at it and went, oh my God, we absolutely have to do this.
So we put some new technology in place that allows us to do this dynamically. You start the mission off, clear day. Midway through the mission, suddenly this sandstorm or heavy weather would show up.
It made the world just feel so much more alive.
There's a sunset, daytime, nighttime, but depending on where you are in the world, these look different. California or Hollywood would have what we call a California sun. In New Bonny, there's a great African sun that happens there. You start to get a sense of space and mood. This is what really brings the levels to life.
For me, the dynamic world's exciting. Just seeing these dramatic landscapes, the wind and the atmosphere blowing by. It's a much more cinematic experience for the player.
Before you start a mission, you look at a map. It's nighttime in Necropolis, or there's a sandstorm in Necropolis. Players can make some comp choices based on knowing this information. Characters like Hanzo or Widowmaker start to be a little more valuable because they have abilities that allow them to see through the sand more clearly.
Are we going to talk about any of the types of objectives in hero missions?
Yeah, let's talk about the objectives. Players are being asked to do different things from one hero mission to the next so that they all feel really fresh to the player.
For example, we have Gather and Return, where you're trying to go and grab these different canisters to kind of safeguard them so they don't go off and affect the population in a negative way. It creates this really cool tension in the world where on the one hand you're trying to split up and go grab all these canisters to be as efficient as possible, but at the same time now you're having these sort of special enemy units spawn that are really difficult, and if you kind of get caught by yourself, it turns into a pretty bad situation really quickly, and it feels extremely cooperative and like a very different way to interact with the Overwatch universe.
We're experimenting with all sorts of ideas, and just internally we have names like Wall of Death, Scavenger Hunt, and Kill Quest, and all these new mechanics and enemies for people to experience. Players will be able to jump in night after night, play different hero missions, and then work through the progression system, leveling up their heroes.
At BlizzCon in 2019, we started to talk about progression, and we showed the very early version of our talent system, which I think was really cool. We had that one talent where like Meg became the rolling snowball, which was a big hit. We've really blown that system out.
I'm real excited about talents. You can play the same hero in so many different ways. Now with the skill tree, you can have fun every night doing different things and kind of experimenting.
Yeah, the talent system is like really deep and rich, and every single hero has different trees. You might open up 76's tree, and as you're leveling and picking new talents, you're starting to feel your hero change. We've had some pretty hilarious versions of the healing one where his biotic field travels with him. It also repulses enemies. We called it the snowplow build, where 76 is like running through spaces, pushing enemies away from them.
Designing these is super fun because it's like we get to break all the rules that we've sort of established for ourselves, and we get to really take the gloves off and do crazy things like Junkrat can dual-wield grenade launchers, and we've had Mercy be able to area effect res their whole team at once at super long range through walls. It's been a ton of fun, kind of like mad scientists making all this stuff.
You're all used to using these kind of kinetic weapons like Soldier 76's rifle or fire attack like what Reinhardt's Flame Strike does. As soon as you start to mutate these things with talents, all of a sudden maybe you're doing freeze damage or electrical damage. But it gives the animators a bunch of crazy opportunities. You know, the animations are going to change to show them freezing and shattering. And if you shock someone with a lightning attack, they can shake in place and stun, maybe chain to other enemies. All sorts of stuff to make you feel like you're controlling the battlefield in novel ways.
As a huge RPG nerd myself, the first time I opened up the talent tree systems, it was like, oh my gosh, this is speaking my love language. Like, I just want to plan and I want to see like where do I want to invest and how am I going to play this character.
Yes, it's so great. And you start at the bottom of the tree. Like,
yes,
oh my,
exactly.
Like Tracer gets to do what?
Yeah.
And then you start working and kind of planning how you're going to get down there. It's like, it's so fun.
When we look back at BlizzCon 2019 and we talk about some of the criticisms that we had, one of them as a development team that we felt was that the combat was just not engaging enough. So the fact that our combat wasn't highly engaging to us as players meant that we had a problem with the enemy units and that they just weren't feeling interesting enough.
Just because we show something to the public, it doesn't mean that that is what it's going to be. If we make discoveries where things aren't working how we want, they're not reading how we want, they're not fun enough, we're totally down to reinvestigate, reiterate, and just really find ways to level kind of all aspects of things until they feel good.
I would say a major focus of all of 2020 was to make the null sector enemy units more engaging. And some of this was adding new units and evolving other units that we had.
Interesting combat for us is varied combat for us. So sometimes we're going to ask you to protect something in Overwatch 2. Sometimes we're just going to ask you to get someplace. Sometimes we might ask you to escort something across a map while it's being attacked. And so it's a different type of spawning, and it's a different type of units that are in there, and it's a simpler objective.
There's a lot of units Aaron is talking about. Lots of different units, lots of different types. They serve different purposes. You do different things to them. It's really going to help a lot of us find the fun and make sure that Overwatch 2 is a blast.
One of those sets of enemies is what we internally call objective units. And they're typically units that don't even attack players. The simplest version would be something like the Breacher.
It's two legs with this huge bomb on its back. It was built to do one thing: slowly and methodically march towards its objective, and then it transforms, and the bomb opens up like a flower. It starts spinning and charging up, and you hear this awesome sound, and you know you have a little bit of time before it's going to explode, and you have to take it out.
We have units like the slicers, which you guys have seen before. They're little, we call them the chickens. Like little chicken sometimes. They run really fast. You know, we have a guy we're experimenting with right now who flies and drops these bombs that create these kind of ever-expanding smoke fields that you have to escape from because they're super deadly. So you really get to use your mobility options to kind of escape that.
There's things like the Polar. You could be moving through these darker alleys, and as soon as you hear that Polar spawn, it suddenly becomes like really spooky and kind of scary.
This very tall, elegant-looking character that's blindfolded, 3 orbs that circle around her as her eyes, and we basically spun those orbs around her head as a big tell, launched them at the player, and then it activates this tractor beam, and it's bringing you in, and then you get this awesome like anticipation of the hair opening up so you know what's about to happen.
One thing we've just recently been experimenting with is this idea of elite units. We didn't want the elite units to feel like they're just, oh, this guy's got double health and double damage. We want to make sure the elite units feel like they have different behaviors and have different attacks. So, for example, an Omnic Grunt, normally he fires his gun, he dies pretty simply. If you fight elite grunts, his weapon fires in a burst fire pattern. It's very deadly if you're close. And if you manage to take him out, they don't just die right away. They instead can crawl on the ground towards you, and you try to back away because if they get to you, they can explode.
Artillery at BlizzCon, we're all just staring at this, and we're like, what are we going to do to level this up?
One of the things we really felt wasn't coming through was the damage states. We intend for players to shoot these guns off, but currently it's not reading as something that can happen in the game easily.
We change the design, we change the animation, and we go back and forth and just continually iterate.
We decided, hey, you know what? We're gonna just delete half of these damage states, so now it's super readable.
From an animation standpoint, we decided on the spinning barrel version. Just did this really nice kickback. The tip of the barrel opens up when it's about to fire and shifts into place and boom!
It's really amazing to be fighting an artillery unit and you can see the guns on the side, and as you're shooting the guns, they're actually visibly taking damage, and then you can blow them off and it reacts and kind of stumbles to the side and really makes you feel like you're there, and it's super fun.
In a lot of the stuff we've showed so far, you're fighting null sector. These are evil killing machines intent on marching you down. The way you're going to stop them is by shooting them, and we want to make sure that feels responsive and visceral. Really making sure that when they take a hit, it feels like their whole body has been punched, almost like hit by a truck. That's what really sells this fantasy that you're playing these superheroes. One of the cool pieces of technology that we created was what we call chain hit reactions. Oftentimes you'll find null sector bunched up, marching maybe a half a dozen units abreast. You expect if you shoot one, they're gonna knock into their buddies. So we make that happen. Turns out it's really fun too.
One of the things that we showed last year at BlizzCon was the new looks for our heroes. The theory kind of going in was like, you want to preserve the essence of your hero, but also kind of show that a hero's evolved and kind of changed and moved forward. So we have a lot more new looks. So I'm excited to see how players and fans react to all of the ones that we've done so far.
Maybe we'll share some of those new looks today, which would be cool.
We're going to reveal McCree's new look for Overwatch 2 as well as Pharah. And we're really excited to show off some of our first villains with Reaper and Widowmaker. But first I wanted to talk a little bit about technical wear, kind of like technical clothing. What that really is using very techie fabrics, as well as having very intricate but functional straps designed in a way that it's very aesthetically pleasing. With McCree, we took a couple of different approaches. He's got this classic cowboy look that it's really hard to mess with, because if you try to make him too sophisticated or too techie, it might not feel right for the character. But as a concept artist, you always want to change things around and try different shapes and silhouettes, so we did identify as Red Serape as the main thing for McCree. We also tried a couple different things with McCree's cowboy hat. We didn't really want to mess with that too much because that's a very iconic part of him. So that's another piece that we kept. We tried some retro cowboy looks that mixed in some tech here and there. Some that were a little bit more techie than others, some that were a little bit more classic cowboy. We gave him a little bit of a longer beard, and it really gives him a nice kind of like a more aged look. What's different about Pharah than some of our other heroes is Pharah's completely covered in armor. We didn't want to change her silhouette too much. It was more about experimenting on different colors. So it felt really appropriate for her to be the one to harken back to those original Overwatch colors of white and blue. One of the things that we wanted to update on Pharah was her visor. Instead of being completely opaque and reflective, we tried a little bit more of a transparent approach, and being able to see through it a little bit now allows us to see some more of her emotions. Reaper was actually the ones I was very excited to work on, because I could see a lot of potential in how we can integrate his cloak and his cowl and his armor, and how we can make all those shapes really sing within that classic, Reaper silhouette. We tried a couple takes with the first pass, like completely silver arms, more layers to his jacket. Reaper's mask is obviously pretty sacred to us, but the thing you'll notice immediately is that it's now completely silver. Instead of the bone white, he's got this like almost like deadly edgy silver that just gives him that classic Reaper look. With Widowmaker, we started with the idea stage, exploring a breadth of ideas. We tried things like a more insectoid approach, treasure hunter. One of them made her feel like a classic Bond villain, so we kind of steered it back towards one of the more cyberpunk looking ones, almost like a futuristic femme fatale, which is basically what Widowmaker is, but she even feels more upgraded. So I'm super glad that we went down this route. We played with different hairstyles too. Widowmaker has the really long ponytail that's really a key part of her look. And we really liked the hairstyle on one of the designs that was more braid, and it was really interesting look that also preserves Widowmaker's original silhouette with that long ponytail.
We've been working a lot with our Domino engine and making our cloth look better. Now that we have this cloth tech, we're going to be able to make some really cool, unique silhouettes that will help them stand out from other heroes. We put a lot of time and effort into our face rig, and what I mean by that is we're gonna be able to get really close to these characters, and it's gonna feel really cool. It is absolutely worth the time and the effort to invest in the technology, and that way we can make these characters do more things that we haven't really been able to do before.
It's been super exciting working on the new looks for Overwatch 2, and it's just been so inspiring to watch the team try things that we've never tried before, and I just can't wait to show up more in the future.
Overwatch 2 is probably the largest opportunity we've had since the inception of the franchise to really expand what Overwatch even means to our players. In 0 Hour, we saw that some of the heroes got back together, but we're also seeing that there seems to be a second huge Omnic uprising. We're going to learn who's behind that uprising, why that's happening, how globally spread is it.
The story and franchise development group, they were really the torchbearers of what the big story is that we were going to tell for this game.
We have a lot of interaction with them. They're working on in-game cinematic intros and outros for every one of our story missions.
It's been really great to see this collaboration grow and develop. The story is just a little more integrated into our missions than it ever really has been before. All the available heroes get dialogue for a given mission. We have NPCs, we have multiple hero choices.
We have all sorts of events that are happening that are driving players to interact with each other or parts of the environment or other characters.
The world of Overwatch is this bright, shiny future. So how do you take that bright, shiny future and create conflict in it? How dark can the world of Overwatch go?
The different challenges that these characters are going to have to overcome in Overwatch 2 are things that they haven't ever dealt with before or dealt with on this scale. So what we had to do was literally strip it down to those bare bones of where are these characters in their lives. Overwatch has been disbanded, and now there's a situation where the world's in trouble again, and the world needs the heroes again, but they're not allowed to be doing what they were supposed to be doing.
We started to book these off-site locations so we could brainstorm over and over different versions of what the Overwatch 2 story campaign could be.
And we basically had these whiteboards that we were carting around everywhere.
The room was filled with whiteboards, and we would just write every day story beats with the characters and who was doing what and where, and oh my gosh, we forgot this character.
We had these giant sticky notes, and each one of them would be a mission with a bunch of notes on it. You know, somebody say, well, what if we moved Rio to the end, and they'd physically grab it off the wall and stick it on the end.
And we did this for a while, you know, until we all felt that it was pretty close to what we wanted.
Then we could send it to our writers' rooms. The writers' rooms then had a much clearer direction of where we wanted this process to go.
Ultimately, we come up with something that we think is right for the game, and then we pitch it back to the game team, and they point out everything that we missed.
And that allows us to actually back up and go and make it right and make it better.
Because the scale of this story is so huge, it takes place over the whole world, basically. It just requires a constant iteration, constant refinement to make the story as best as we can make it.
From writing, we go to storyboards. The storyboards get crafted with the edit. From there, it'll go to a previs department where they'll start to flesh it out in 3D. Once we've kind of figured out our camera work and our cinematography, that'll then go to the animation department. And then we end up going right into the game engine.
One of our challenges was to figure out how to integrate this story and this narrative with the gameplay.
So if the intro cinematic ends with this huge battle, this huge war, when you get into the game, it has to mesh and feel the exact same way and blend together.
Mayday.
We really are also trying to get the music to be equally as consistent from in-game
там не
cinematics
было,
straight
когда
to the
выйдете.
mission. Adam Burgess, our
Там
lead
не было,
composer,
когда
has been
выйдете.
working with the IGC team,
Рава,
with the
привет.
game team,
Там просто
developing
показали
themes for all the
геймплей
heroes, all
Diablo
the
4,
locations.
As
ремейк
the cinematic
Diablo
director,
2.
whatever we're
И
crafting should never override the gameplay.
там
We wanna make
показали
sure that
Diablo
the player's
Immortal,
experience going
что
from
уже
cinematic
скоро.
to the gameplay is
Но про
seamless
Diablo
and feels like
4
a
оно не
completely
раньше, чем
immersive
через год, через два
experience.
выйдет.
The engineers, we have to find a way to actually make that come to fruition. The Choreo tool is a tool that allows people
Пока
to
там не было,
coordinate
да.
different events
Nintendo,
to happen at the
спасибо
same time.
за
Like
поддержку
in Rio, if you play that
стрима.
demo,
Да, я отходил воды, просто набирал. Так, показывали, как делали озвучку оружия игры. Показывали, ну, в принципе, все.
That interact with the environment, that interact with our characters.
The new tech, the new abilities that we have now are allowing us to push our storytelling farther than we could have previously.
What's also really powerful about Choreo is that, you know, if somebody has an idea, they can mock things up really quickly.
We gotta show the Widowmaker making this.
Сейчас посмотрим еще раз про Diablo, что там показали. Именно на BlizzCon.
And Philip would come in on the fly. He's making quick changes. They play tested something that would normally take.
Это все про Overwatch 2.
Like a matter of days.
Overwatch 2, который выйдет, там сюжетка в нем.
Будет
story мод, будет мультиплеер, новые карты, скорее всего, новые персы, новая оружка, персов, естественно. Был бы Глеб Андреевич, CR7, Diamond Rerun, он бы нам больше рассказал. Но Глеб на учебе, по-моему. 3 часа добираться на учебу, 3 часа домой. Nintendo, спасибо тебе.
We created a space that kind of fits his height, so there's, you know, step ladders and scalable tables.
Я думаю, Over выйдет зимой.
Molten steel is pouring out of walls. It's pretty epic when you walk into it. Toronto was under siege by Null Sector when the players arrived here. There's a dynamic snowstorm.
Да, может быть в феврале, в марте.
The snow is slowly building up. Suddenly by the end,
вот сейчас в феврале, в конце февраля, в марте.
And they must fight their way through.
In Overwatch 2, we want to give you choice to be able to play this character or that character. So we're designing a lot of systems around how their relationships develop over the course of the story missions in the campaign.
We have a cast of many characters, all on screen, all at the same time, and it's fantastic to actually see them all interacting and working together in ways that we
Это Overwatch, ты знаешь, что оно мне напоминает? Лигу справедливости, Marvel. Marvel, Лига справедливости. Вот это Overwatch. Это Люди X, Люди X. Знаешь, Люди X? X-Men был такой мультик. Ну так вот, по-моему, они позаимствовали какие-то идеи Люди X, наверное. Да, я тут сидел, работал, параллельно смотрел стримы на английском. Спасибо.
I wish people could see how many people are involved when it comes to something like telling the story of Overwatch. It doesn't just come from a singular person. It comes from a group, and it's a really talented, fun group that all works together.
Понимаю. Тебе тоже напомнил? А, тебе тоже? Как Люди X? Тебе тоже, да, напомнил? Как будто Люди X.
We've been talking about the game, about this universe. I know you all love it so much.
Right now, we can sit down and
какая крутая мозаика. Я тоже хочу такое обои.
A really fun experience, and I think we need some more time till we can say it's perfectly polished in the way that we want it.
We've made such incredible strides since we first announced this and showed it to the community at BlizzCon in 2019.
The thing that I'm most excited about is that moment when we hand the game over to the players.
We want to create something that really moves people, really touches people.
That's why we do it. We create the game because we want it to become part of your life and for you to experience it.
Вот этот Бибизяна, это как зверь в X-Men.
For Overwatch 2, we're upping the bar.
Доктор Дебизян. Как Хаук. Как Хаук. Кстати, как Хаук в Marvel, в Лиге Справедливости. Хаук. Здоровый зеленый. Он тоже там доктор, типа.
We are making cinematics that push the boundary of what we can do to tell stories.
Это прикольный герой новый какой-то
появился.
I'm really looking forward to being able to expand the world of Overwatch for our players.
We're really trying to tell this epic story
Epic story.
In order to make a game great, it takes time, energy, collaboration.
We have just an incredibly professional team of designers and artists and engineers.
Это все дизайнеры, разрабы Overwatch.
It's just a blast working on it.
Профессионалы своего дела. Реально звуки записывали, как реально стреляют винтовки. Ну, в Destiny тоже. Кстати, в Destiny есть видео на Triple White канале, Джонни Лейни рассказывал Ambient в Destiny 2 и в Destiny 1, там Bungie тоже записывали, как оружие реально стреляет, как они его меняли. О, Diablo Resurrected это оно называется. О, стой, вот оно, вот.
I'm Mr. MSC. I am a Twitch streamer. I have been playing Diablo 2
2
for 20
Resurrected.
years, streaming it for
Блин,
6
как я это
years.
жду, это
I probably have over
капец.
25,000 hours in this game and just
Это
absolutely
одна
love
из
it.
любимых моих
So,
игр.
seeing the
Детство
remaster
моего,
happen,
ё-моё.
I have to just,
2000
of
год,
course, ask
первый
the very
компьютер.
first high-level question.
Diablo 2,
Why the D2
Герой
remaster
3.
right now?
Well, Diablo
Это
2 is a very
ремейк,
special game,
Resurrector
as many of you well
Diablo
know,
2,
and Diablo 2
Full
also had
HD
its 20th year
разрешении.
anniversary. So with that, we really wanted to
Специально нам
stay true
показывают
to what that authentic experience was
офигеть!
for Diablo 2 and bring
Охренеть!
it to the current audience and improve
Я не
it
видел
for the
этого.
existing
Я не
audience
видел
and
этого
invite
footage
new people
gameplay.
to experience it for the first
Новый
time. It's
experience,
also good learning
новый опыт
opportunities too
для
for us,
Diablo 2.
especially when we're partnering up with Vicarious Visions now.
Это
to
разрабы,
work on
которые
remastered
занимаются
projects like
Resurrector'ом
this
Diablo
together.
2.
So it's been a great partnership. We've actually
Жалко,
worked
что
with
Рава не
Blizzard
снимал.
for a
Вот
while
Рава бы
now.
посмотрел бы.
Couple years,
Рава заходил, я
even
вижу,
starting
заходил
with some
Рава,
Battle.net integration type
спрашивал
things.
про Diablo 4.
We just
Diablo
finished
4
Tony Hawk Remaster.
будет
Before that, we
еще не
did
скоро.
Crash Bandicoot Remasters, and it just seemed
Студия,
like
которая
a
занималась
perfect match for us to work
разработкой
together.
It was
Crash
a
Bandicoot.
shock to my system to
Понимаю.
first to come in to remaster trailer.
Музыка тут,
but
это
then
саундтрек
to see the
Diablo.
complete shift in the
Охренеть!
design and the art and everything, and I'd really love to hear more about
Они сделали второй
how you
Diablo,
came up with
как
the process
четвертый
or
это
the look of
сделали.
it, right? Wanted it to visually
Обалдеть!
exist, and I'd love to bring in Chris some of that.
Блин, вот это,
Chris,
вот
can
это
you
я жду
discuss
реально.
A little bit of the philosophy and the design decisions around
Оно такая
this
интересная.
remaster.
Тут сюжет. Я не знаю,
like,
как у
from the
4
original
там
D2R.
Лилит,
Our
воплощение
primary focus is
зла, вот
always
эти все
nostalgia,
7,
right?
которые
We
мы
wanna
в
make sure we
третьем
focus on
победили.
getting this right.
В четвертом будет
And deliver an
Лилит,
authentic
а в
experience
третьем
that
был
players
Молтаэль,
remembered from 20
Диабло,
years ago. Every
там
choice we make
смерть
with the
и
art, with the
Диабло.
models, with the environments,
А
it's really to
третий
ignite
там
that
именно,
nostalgia,
там именно
and to
Андриэль,
reinforce that
Дурель,
emotional connection from the
Мефисто,
original game. But then we came up
Баал
with like
там
a
был босс.
70-30 visual guide. 70% is basically the
Вот
classic.
показывают футаж
This is
второго
what we don't
Диабло,
touch. We don't touch
а сейчас покажут
what
футаж
works, right? We
нового
wanna maintain those
Диабло.
iconic shapes,
Офигеть,
colors,
смотри.
tones. Everything should be
Графа
one-to-one
какая,
and
блин,
faithful
все,
to the original.
менюшка.
We want things to feel
Офигеть,
authentic and preserve those original designs. With the
Мне не
30%
нужно
new,
твое
like, that's kinda
спасибо.
like where we're gonna elevate that art. Every change we make
Мне
should
не
really
нужно
signify that
твое
step forward
спасибо.
visually. I also noticed that the game was
О,
3D.
спасибо,
And
герой.
can you talk a little bit about
Нефалем, что ты спас
discussion
нас
or
от
how you
великого
moved
воплощения
and some
зла.
challenges
Мне не нужно
moving
твое
from 2D to 3D?
спасибо.
Well, I mean, evolving from a 2D
Да, это
sprite
шаманка,
game, like a
шаманка.
2D image game, to a 3D is very challenging. We basically had to write
Шаманка
a
прикольно.
complete new
Кстати, сильно,
PBR
пиздец, я не ожидал, что
renderer, so
шаман
physically
такой
based
сильный.
renderer
Я
on
еще за
top
варвара
of
не
the
прошел.
old game logic.
Кстати, могу
It's
за варвара
difficult
проходить,
because
за монаха
you're dealing
еще.
with,
Еще за
you know,
монаха и за
models
варвара не
versus-
прошел.
versus, 2D
Прикинь,
sprites, where you
сколько
have to
лет.
basically
В
write-
2012
you have,
году вышел Diablo
dynamic
3.
lighting,
Я прошел
you
за
have
Сорка,
dynamic VFX.
за
Like, a
убийца
lot of that
демонов,
is,
охотника
an
демонов,
additional system that we have to work
за
out on our
волшебника,
end.
за
So,
волшебницу,
the follow-up to that question,
за
I suppose,
шамана,
is I wasn't able to see any
за
items
шаманку,
when I was watching that trailer.
за
Are all
некроманта
of the
и за
items also gonna be
крестоносца я
remastered, all of
проходил.
the gems,
А
all
за
of
варвара
every
и
single
за
piece of
монаха я не
this,
прошел.
and what sorts of
Так что еще 2 раза
flavor did you
Диабло можно
decide
пройти,
to
третий.
add, to that
Я за эту
artwork?
неделю
So
2
everything's
дня
being
ходил
redone.
на
So we
учебу.
remodeled everything, 'cause everything has to drop
Так это
in the
хорошо
game.
или
So
плохо?
you have your icon
О,
art,
во,
and then
менюха,
you have
смотри-ка,
your
менюха,
3D
менюха.
space art that
Варвар
flips,
какой
right?
крутой, блин,
So we had to
офигеть.
basically
Графика
model
какая
everything.
классная, блин.
So,
Нафиг
and as far as
четвертый
the
Диабло.
inspiration,
Нафиг
we actually
четвертый
were
Диабло,
inspired
есть
by
второй.
some
original documentation
Resurrector.
that we found from, you know, from Blizzard North, where
Блин, второй
there was a
Diablo,
huge,
блин,
you know, word
Resurrector
doc
круче,
of,
чем
like,
четвертый,
where
который
the original
выходит,
artist
блин,
pulled inspiration
по-моему.
from. So a lot of that was like very like, you know,
Посмотрим,
historical
какой будет
landmarks,
четвертый
locations,
Diablo.
and
Ну,
very
по-моему,
much
Resurrector
real-world
второго,
referencing.
блин, это
So that's kind of
что-то,
where we kind
блин.
of pulled our inspiration as well. We wanted
Это и плохо, и
that
хорошо.
functional design that the original art had. Everything felt
Так,
like
а ты
it was
можешь позвонить
believable.
какому-то
And that detail really does help
старости, там
to give it
спросить,
some
там, что
realistic
было, что задавали,
and
что
makes
меня
you
ждет,
feel
там,
more immersed in the
какие
game, like it
зачеты
makes you feel like you're
сдавать,
part
там.
of this world when you can see every
Что
little
там еще?
buckle and strap.
I remember when
варвар,
we
ужас.
went into the tavern and there was garlic
Там
hanging
некромант
from
есть.
a beam.
Некромант, паладин, амазонка, убийца, друид, некромант, сорг, друид, нет, амазонка, убийца, паладин,
Holy cow, yeah,
сорг,
garlic, and there's
некромант
jams hanging and everything. So there was,
и
it was
волшебница.
really cool to see,
Да
like
ничего
to see it
не
almost for the first time.
And it's funny
Курсовик
because,
15 марта сдавать.
Original SD, like it was made in all 3D. So we actually came across a bunch of screenshots that were a different camera. Like it wasn't the isometric camera. It was like either
4K
marketing
рояль.
art or something else, or maybe it's exploration.
4K
But there was
опять
shots
преподу.
of that garlic in the original art.
4000
You could never
Вот
really
куда
see it
деньги
in the
уходят на
in the
Overwatch.
pixel art. But it was there, so it was
Overwatch
telling that
400
they
рублей
were really trying to achieve
а
something
препору
very,
4000
very
надо
grand
отнести.
with this art.
I'm not gonna lie, I
Там мне
never knew
курсовик
that
про
they had
какой-то
garlic
фотоаппарат
hanging
нового
there. I
поколения.
mean, maybe a couple white
4K
sprites out there,
разрешение
maybe
аппарат.
candles or
4K
who
стоит
knows? No
курсовик.
clue. But that makes me excited to go look around now.
Так
and
это
just,
надо
like,
гуглить этот
explore
фотоаппарат.
all of the areas in the game just to look at the new detailed art and see what
Well, you see it now too because also we have the one new feature
Разрабы
for
сами
the
довольные,
art, on
блин,
the
что
art
они
side of
такой
things,
Diablo
is the new
Resurrector
camera.
сделали, блин.
So it'll help you get in there and look at all the details. Like it was something. that I really
Охренеть,
felt
смотри, какой
strongly that, like, a lot of
бампмейпинг.
ARPGs that come out
Отражение
now all have this
какое.
new feature.
Офигеть,
This will
сорг.
really get you up
Физику
close and
поменяли.
personal with, like, your armor,
Амазонка
your weapons,
какая,
like, everything, the runes.
Another way to
Блин,
look
я
at it
это
too
жду
is our
капец, я уже
legacy
хочу это
toggle
играть.
feature where you can flip back
Офигеть,
between the
блин,
old
Крис, я
visuals
фанат
of the
этой
game and our
игры.
current
Я
visuals.
фанат
It's not even
этого
just a
Diablo,
simple
это
art
просто.
swap.
У
It
меня
is
диски из
really the
Diablo
old
3
game running
покупал.
underneath because,
До
like
сих пор мне на столе
Chris
лежит.
was mentioning, our new art
Не знаю,
engine
это просто
is,
не
our
объяснить,
graphics
как
engine
эта
is
игра
running
мне
on top of
нравится.
the game.
Это офигенно. Это икона игростроения. Все эти клоны, которые есть. Нервно курят в сторонке, просто отдыхают. Diablo 4. Тебе бы поиграть вот этот Resurrector 2. Ты бы понял суть, что вообще происходит в этой игре, в этой вселенной. Есть Diablo, есть камни, есть камень души. И вот это зло, оно вырывалось, и были хардримы, типа тайные, типа паладины, которые убивали это зло, и они это зло помещали в эти камни.
So we still have benchmarks.
Ну и это война ангелов и демонов постоянно. И мы играем за Нефалема. Это типа Нефалем, это родился от связи с ангела и демона. Нефалем.
So we've done that,
и эти
but all of the logic still
сильные.
runs on those same things. So you can wait for your breaks.
Это как вампиры и оборотни в Underworld.
And that was through no small effort, but
гибрид такой.
But it's super important, right? Because
и не человек, и не ангел, и не демон.
Right away, you feel it when it's different. We've done that on lots of areas. So, for example, the original game only had so many sprites to render your rotation. So you'd have your character and they're rendered out at so many angles, and the monsters even less. But you could actually walk at greater directions, right? You have, I think it was 64 different squares around you that you would path to, and you'd have feet sliding. We've increased that.
Смотри,
so now there's
видел,
more
да?
granularity.
Футаж второго Diablo и ремастеринг показали, видел? Ремастеринг, этот Resurrector, это даже не ремастеринг. Ремастеринг это просто HD-текстура, это полностью переделка второго Diablo. Он такой же, как Diablo 4. Он даже круче, чем Diablo 4. Ты понимаешь, в чем прикол? Я это сразу заметил, я сразу это увидел.
Rob was mentioning animation. Animation is also like it was very challenging because you only had a few of the frame counts.
То есть наработки на Diablo 4 они как бы накинули скелет на Diablo 2 и его полностью. Он будет издаваться, короче, чтобы понимали, на PlayStation 5.
focus for us too. We wanted to get those iconic poses for each character.
На PlayStation 5 на всех платформах будет выдаваться Diablo 2, Resurrector и Diablo 4 потом. И я уверен, будет какая-то Gold Edition, какая-то Ultimate Diamond Edition, которая будет стоить дофига рублей. И там будет Diablo 2 Resurrector, будет Diablo 4, Diablo 3. И типа вдогонку еще вот вам код на Overwatch.
So our goal was to basically be one-to-one with parity with the original game. So we built every piece of armor that was in the original game and is now in the remastered version. The only difference we did is with the icon.
Да, она будет выдаваться на PlayStation 5, на PlayStation 4.
Connected visual with the icon and the item that drops in the game. Where before you had different visuals. That's really the only thing we pushed on as far as modernization.
Тебе не понять.
Like shields,
тебе не
weapons, a lot of the unique items that you find in the game had special
Это просто не объяснить, потому что
and that is something we're actually going to be showing on your
это первый мой комп был, когда мне купили. Первый компьютер, который у меня был, Celeron 766. И это была первая игра у меня на компе, которая моя любимая игра моего детства. И когда спустя 20 лет ее делают Resurrection, это просто тебе не объяснить. Ты просто меня не понимаешь. Ты не поймешь этих чувств. Это что-то особенное.
Also be remastered, and any other sound in the game be remastered.
Это просто больше, чем игра для меня. Это особое отношение к этой игре, особое. 20 лет назад игра вышла. Вот ее делают Resurrection. Resurrection второго Diablo, офигеть.
Use that measured hand as well.
Я не знаю, кровь из носа, но я его буду покупать полюбас. И четвертый Diablo полюбас тоже. Я не знаю, я все сделаю для того, чтобы показать это на канале прохождения.
Exactly, right? So there are certain things you're gonna, you'll hear for like
Я не знаю, когда это выйдет.
Footsteps running will have some variety when the rain kicks in, it's going to have a lot more depth. When you go to the jungle, you'll hear a lot more.
Я не знаю, вот Nintendo, ты помнишь, какая была твоя первая игра, когда ты комп купил? Какая твоя любимая игра?
With Blizzard, when we're creating new games, one of our
вот первый твой компьютер, который у тебя появился, вот какую первую игру ты играл? Вот какие особые отношения у тебя, имеется в виду, это типа One Love навсегда. Вот One Love навсегда. Это что бы тебе кто ни говорил, как бы там тебе про нее не рассказывали. То есть ты будешь безапелляционно, перманентно ты будешь считать это лучшей игрой в мире. Есть такая игра? Need for Speed. Ну вот, Need for Speed.
I think also we want to thank and appreciate the fan base, right? This is really a true nod to the original game. We want to preserve that game and the structure of that game as much as we can.
Вот теперь ты меня понимаешь, о чем я говорю? Вот теперь ты должен меня понять. GTA 5. У кого-то это San Andreas. Кстати, 2K и Rockstar, по-моему, они делают ремейк San Andreas. Прикинь. Ремейк San Andreas, motherfucker. Homie. И ремейк Vice City. Это Vice City я играл тоже, я обожаю его. Короче, GTA 3, полностью GTA 3, GTA Vice City и GTA San Andreas, это все будут ремейки на движке GTA 5, по-моему. Да. В Ютубе даже где-то есть эта информация. Короче, GTA 3 ремейк, GTA Vice City и GTA San Andreas. По-моему, даже четвертого. Какой там был? Сан Андреас и еще какой-то четвертый GTA. Там где тот русский типа. Серб. Герой тут, серб. Я его не играл даже. Сан Андреас немножко играл. GTA 3 очень крутой. GTA 3. И Vice City. Vice City это просто мега офигенная Vice City.
Looking at strategy guides or just limited internet. It led to that kind of typical
Кровь из
game
носа
design you see
пошла.
where there's a lot of mystery, discovery.
Не, вот Vice City, я, честно, мне Vice City очень, моя любимая Vice City. Я помню, у меня еще интернета не было, я играл в Vice City. Качал с компьютерки ее.
Maintaining and possibly
Очень интересная
changing,
Vice
what are
City
the
была
pieces that did end up
офигенная.
staying the same, or if it's easier to explain the other way, what are the pieces that were really changed
Ну вот Diablo.
to bring
Diablo
this
Resurrection
remaster
ждем,
to life?
когда же она выйдет. Это что-то просто невероятное. То, что они сделали какой графический ремейк.
The balance, the monsters
Full
you see
HD,
on
супер там мега
spawn rates,
разрешение,
item
графика,
drops, and things like that
новая
are
полностью детализация
the same.
всего.
And what we're doing
Анимация,
is trying to take
детализация.
any of the rough edges you see,
GTA San Andreas и пятая часть.
compatibility issues, resolution
Ну да,
issues,
San Andreas с
and
этими
obviously the
WhatsApp
arts,
Homey.
improving the arts as well. All these
А
kinds of things
пятая
come
там
to know from a
Франклин.
remaster, but still maintaining
Пятая
very
Франклин
much
One
what
Love.
the game is. So,
And
Мой
when it
любимый
comes to the
Франклин.
features we added, this is
Пятой.
probably the biggest area where we
Сан-Андреас водил
scrutinize so
ходы.
much is this
Я
addition
помню,
straying
было
too
код
much?
Панзер.
You know, does it still
Панзер
create the
это на
same
танк.
gameplay
Vice
experience and
City.
other things like that?
Панзер.
So
Вводишь,
things
и
like the
танк
shared
появляется, и
stash,
больше ничего не надо.
we know people use
С
mule
танков всех
characters,
херячишь,
right?
блин,
And so adding a
ездишь.
shared stash,
Я в Vice
we
City
felt
собирал
was the
тачки.
right choice.
Я собирал,
Wait, we have a
купил
shared
дом,
stash?
собирал
Yeah,
тачки
we have
у меня.
shared
We have a shared stash.
Я же люблю все собирать.
Now the way that the shared stash works is there are rules, right? You can't have your ladder characters
Да,
mix in the
графика,
stash with a
конечно.
non-ladder character. And you can
Diablo
have
2
your
Resurrection
offline
меня, конечно,
characters,
потрясло.
you know, can't use your online.
Они,
But
конечно,
for the
сделали.
most part, we're
Ну, тут
like,
графика
people
такая
do
на
this
уровне
anyway with
Divine
a mule character,
Divinity.
so it's
но
okay to give them this feature.
Для
That is
Diablo
like
2 это просто
the
что-то
greatest feature that
нечто.
you could add, because
Там,
there's nothing worse
короче, в 2020
than
году,
opening up
по-моему,
the game,
выходила игруха
going in, dropping all your GG items to mule them over because you run out of space,
Boulder Gate.
and then
Есть такая игра.
not being able
Вы
to log back
знаете.
in, or the game's not created,
Boulder
or it
Gate.
didn't turn in time, and losing all of
Boulder
your gear,
Gate 3.
or trying to find someone to help you transfer your gear over.
Boulder
Oh
Gate
my
3
gosh. A
выходила
shared
такая
stash
игра.
is amazing. Thank you so much. That's such a help.
Тоже
like I
очень
said,
крутая
maintaining the
игра.
core was a thing, but the other aspect of it
Boulder
was
Gate 3
to see
называется.
where we can improve, right?
Вот
So the
там
shared
вот
stash is one of them because we saw it as a very common
Тоже очень продумано, все
concern,
очень красиво
especially
тоже
around
сделано.
muling, which people had
И
workarounds
разговоры, и
anyway,
сюжет,
right? So that is one thing.
эти
Another
напарники
example
с
is we are
тобой
reimagining
ходят.
the UI in the game. With a new reimagined
Вот,
UI,
видите,
we're still
видите,
trying to
показали
stay very
футаж
faithful
второго
to what you come
и
to
показали
expect.
футаж
So you'll still
ремейка
have
такой.
the
Full
classic
HD-шный.
globes on the HUD screen,
Какие
the skill
эффекты,
icons, the
туман,
function belts, and
эти
all that.
огонь,
We are
там,
reorganizing a little bit.
детализация
Yeah, we're
какая,
trying to
даже
integrate
менюшка
the menu
другая.
buttons and the stamina bars closer together
Детализация
within the HUD, so
объектов,
built
детализация
a little
самого
bit
героя
cleaner. And with,
главного.
naturally, with reimagining a UI, we
Майкл?
have some liberties to add a few things. So going back to
Не,
the information I was
Франклин.
talking about, a big thing we're doing on
Франклин,
the character
не, мой
screen is
любимый
we're adding an
Франклин
advanced
герой.
stats screen as well. So we're going to be
Майкл прикольный
showing
тоже.
you all the information you get from items.
Fire
as well.
Damage
So you don't have to do that
2222.
kind of math with like
Ого, это какой уровень? 72-40, 135 силы, Dex 100, Vitality
Something that
160.
we've seen
Ого.
already in a lot of mods where they've gone ahead and
Нормальный срок.
taken that information.
Показали
and
бы
created
еще
a little
геймплей
screen.
бы
So that's really
какой-то.
nice to see that you guys are implementing that as well. Because yeah, I don't think anybody likes sitting down and counting up the magic finds
Nintendo,
of
это
every
ты
specific item,
рассказываешь.
and all of their charms and all of everything to figure out what is the number, how much do I have.
We've also added
Nintendo
auto
разраб
gold,
Diablo.
so you can opt in. It is a feature you can turn off, which is one of the things we have to be careful of. You know, a handful of other things
Немножко
where we're like,
похож на
if you
тебя,
want
не?
this, you can turn it on.
Немножко похож.
But you can also keep it off. This was actually something that we started looking into when we were adding controller support. There's a lot of paths that we could have taken with controller support. Obviously for controllers on consoles, which we're coming out on, but allowing the just plug a controller in for accessibility reasons, for that might be the way you want to play. But it's a PC first experience. Like for example, there's still an inventory grid. There's still inventory Tetris. That's core to what Diablo 2 is, right? Taking that away, it starts to become something different.
And I love that. I think that's the perfect way to really introduce it, because you're going to have that split in the community. You're going to have half the people who say, just give me auto gold. It's 2020. I don't want to worry about having to pick up every individual gold stack. But then you're going to have the opposite side of purists who go, don't touch this. Like, that completely changes my game experience. And, you know, if I'm speedrunning through the game or playing through whatever, I want to be able to go over and pick up the gold stacks and take that time, and that's more a part of the Diablo 2 experience for me. I want to jump back to features in a second, but before we do, you just brought up console play, and I feel like we have to jump into console, the decision for console, and how you're gonna make that work. You already talked a little bit about like auto gold, having that to be a little more accessible, but when I think of Diablo 2, I think of a mouse going and clicking everywhere and do. How does this work on a console?
To say it wasn't a challenge would be a bold lie. So there's a couple things. For the most part, the game thinks you're still using a keyboard and mouse with a controller. That was almost a rule we kept, that helped keep us on the rails, because we didn't want to be sacrificing once again that authentic experience. But we did want to make it more accessible, bring it to a modern audience. I mean, there are people who were born after this game came out that we want them to enjoy it and play it. And a lot of those people are used to, just more modern titles that could use a controller. Also, from an accessibility of just allowing you to plug in a controller helps for many other people to get to enjoy the game. The biggest thing I think that the two big things, we'll say. One is you're changing the way you play the game from being kind of an eye in the sky and telling your hero what to do by clicking on areas to actually being your character and directing them. So pathfinding is gone, right? Because you're doing the pathfinding and things like that, which creates some very interesting things. For example, the sorceress's teleport is meant to teleport to wherever you click. So in that area, when you're playing on the console, we will have a kind of a default distance that you will teleport to. Whereas on the PC, you can click wherever you want. Same with Barbarian's Leap, although that one's interesting because it levels. But it's become a very, very fun challenge. Like, I'm a necromancer and I need to target an item on the ground that has a certain keyword. It's working so far, but you guys will be the ultimate judge of that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of talks back and forth, playtesting and things like that. A big challenge we had too was categorizing, all those 300 character skills to see how each of them really play, to see what challenges there were. And yeah, like Rob mentions, the Necromancer Iron Golem is a favorite of ours to continuously talk about because of the various ways it can target. Also, like a Sorcerer's Telekinesis is another example.
Watching the trailer, we see the Assassin and Druid at the campfire. We see a Druid casting Tornado. I have to ask, though, even still, this includes Lord of Destruction, right? This is going to be a full encompassing remaster and not just classic or just a piece?
That's correct, yeah. We are going to be including both the base Diablo 2 and the expansion Lord of Destruction as well. And we're even keeping the mode of playing non-expansion character as well, right? So you could still play a classic barbarian, for example, and things like that.
Okay, awesome. Because that was something I was also going to ask was, will there be classic mode? Because once again, when you go to the purist, you always have the people that go back all the way and they're like, classic is pure and that's it, and I won't play anything else.
Yeah, it was very much a mode we wanted to keep. Even based on popularity, it might not be as much, but it's still a part of the game, and it still leads to interesting ways of playing too, right? A lot of it's even data driven too, so like a lot of the reasons to keep it were pretty clear to us. Like, let's make sure we're not taking something away from this remaster.
I'd love to go ahead and start talking about some of the other features, or continue talking about some of the other features that you had mentioned before, because hearing each of these already has gotten me so excited for this game. And so what are some other little things that you felt could be changed, wouldn't change the whole flow of the game, but just improve it a little bit?
One thing we're looking into is making it easier to interact with your stash. So having quick keys to move to your stash is one thing, versus like dragging the mouse to every time you want to move something to your stash. Other things we're looking at as well are like an item comparison tooltip. So in case you're looking at some other item, you can hold shift or whatever controller button is mapped, and then you can see what equipped items you have just for quick glances, things like that.
The item comparison is a great example of us adding it, but added it with a measured hand. So we don't suggest any gear for anybody. The gear in Diablo 2 is so quirky and different, and every class can use everything, that us recommending things like that actually was more confusing to people. So you hold shift and it's like, here's what you got equipped, here's what it is.
I think that's the great way to do it with Diablo 2, because I agree. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts about Diablo 2. The items are so fantastic, so unique in their own design, that it would be near impossible to have a tooltip that could actually recommend one or the other, you know, because it's all so unique to every situation and character and skill build and everything.
We added 5 more languages, so that's a feature to a lot of people who speak those other languages. The whole front end is pretty much modernized now, so your character is much bigger front and center right in the beginning, and you'll have a backdrop of whatever act you're in. So that's all been streamlined. You can still, play online or offline, but that flow has been improved.
So what are your favorite changes that each of you have within the game so far?
There's a lot of fun. It's fun to see a lot of the art come to life with our new visuals. So for me, one of the things I've been waiting for since first starting on this game was to see that character creation campfire scene come to life in our new arts, and I'm really happy to see how far it's progressed, and I love seeing that. It's just such an iconic moment. It's the first thing you really see in the game before you get started, and it's amazing.
Can I say all the art? No, I'm just kidding. So we added, like Rob mentioned, we added an act-specific screen in the front end, and it's basically this large screen where we have like a diorama of each act, and it's amazing to see because it feels like you're really there. Like you can see the detail, you can see every aspect of the scene, and it just has that very immersive feeling to it. So that's probably my favorite part.
I think mine is a little bit more squishy. I think our game has gotten a little scarier. I think that there are certain areas in the game where just the way that the 3D lighting is and the way the sound is, and I play it on a big screen TV sometimes, and just it feels scarier. It feels creepier, a little more claustrophobic in certain areas. That's not just one feature. There's a lot of things going on there, but I think it's really, really cool. I would like to hope that had the original creators had the tools we have today, it's the experience they would have wanted to make.
Yeah, I think the lighting really helps with that too, because we're a 3D game. That's one of the biggest differences between the original games. So what the game had before with the sprites, with 3D models built into sprites, was not a true real-time lighting system. So because we're pushing that with a 3D graphics engine running on top of the game and getting actual 3D lighting inside of those kinds of caverns and corridors makes for a very interesting experience now, because it just feels more immersive with having light react around you like that.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, I've only seen the trailer piece you sent me, but even from that, just seeing down in the tunnels or the sewers or any of those like you said, cavern dungeonous zones, the lighting, it was darker and brighter, and then things like the skeletons with the fire, but it just had this different, I agree, creepier feel. So I haven't seen much more than, or anything more than you guys showed me, but there was definitely a different feel to the game, and I loved the fire the most. I think just watching the sorceress meteor was gorgeous.
Fire and lightning, once we got all the effects up and running, that was definitely a couple of times where we would be just in a review and we're and 10 minutes would go by and we're like, oh crap, we had a meeting, we were just playing now. Another thing that kind of goes without saying, that just because it's parity, but 8-player multiplayer, that just works, but once again, it was tricky to get that going.
So with multiplayer, are there going to be any changes, any differences in there from PvP to trading to how players interact, units blocking each other? I mean, all sorts of stuff.
So with multiplayer, we want to keep all the features you've known and loved there. So PvP will still be there, down to opening the party window and engaging hostility. Trading is still going to function the same as you know. You know, you can go into games, trade items, or talk in chat channels and things like that. Areas of improvement, though, like I said, going back to my mentioning of reimagining a lot of the UI, improvements to the battlement lobby. So we're trying to look at some things like improving like how you browse server games. Like, so when you're looking at a game to join and typing passwords and things like that, that's the kind of area we're trying to see how we could smooth out in ways like making sure you can browse normal games, Nightmare games, and Hell games, even though you've graduated to the higher difficulty. I'm sure you've known that.
There's nothing worse than accidentally killing Bale in Nightmare when you're trying to do Nightmare Bale runs and you're like, I can't find any of the games anymore for Nightmare Bale runs.
But you can if you log into a separate character.
Right, you go to a separate character and then look at it.
That was kind of our logic, right? We saw, since there are workarounds there, that made it easier for us to make the decision of allowing some of those things. Another change is also looking into reducing ladder seasons overall. So right now ladder seasons in Diablo 2 are 6 months, and we're looking at reducing that as well to help have more engagement and kind of drive more incentives too. You know, 6 months is a long time, and we're looking into like if we make it shorter, we could probably have greater beats throughout the year, as well as seeing people strive harder for getting like that to that level 99, right?
So is there going to be any reward change on that, or will it just simply be, you know, the same standard? You get to 99, you're 99 on that leaderboard, and I mean that's a giant reward in itself. But I don't know if there's any other piece go up on the Battle.net website or something.
We're not looking into adding anything beyond what the game really did, but in some ways there will be some things that kind of come out of because of what we changed. So we have the leaderboard, right, where you can see each class going to level 99. There are easier ways to filter through that. And we're also looking into saving that, right? So you can always look back to previous seasons as well. So in a way, we're creating that kind of legacy now that has kind of been dropped from the past. So that's one advantage, is kind of your names could be there in the legacy if you look in the past.
I mean, I think that would be cool enough. Just anything to keep it there as like a forever, like this was season 1, season 2, you know, like that's when I got my 89. Because I know a lot of people like to go and reflect kind of on their old characters and pushes and stuff like that.
Character expiration will not be a thing anymore, by the way. Due to modern Battle.net integrations, we do not have to. You will not have to worry about refreshing your characters, so they will stay with you.
Awesome. Will there be anything different with like character names then, if that's the case?
Oh, yeah. So this was one that we talked about for a very, very long time. So because we are moving to global servers and we have cross progression, we will allow duplicate names because with everyone being in the same thing across all consoles and all platforms and other things like that, you would very quickly bump into duplicates like day one. And so we are allowing duplicate names.
Еще одна легендарная игра, которую я жду. Знаешь, какая Nintendo, угадаешь? Про зомби. Про зомби.
But this also allows us for people to play the game quicker, because we can autofill in your name.
Ну просто один раз угадаешь.
Игра
про зомби, ремейк. Ее делают. 4-я часть.
This is a new thing we're doing.
4-я часть ее ремейк делают
US West, US East, Asia regions.
Да.
Resident Evil 4. In terms of like being on separated servers.
Офигеть, ты
шо.
Ремейк 4-й Resident.
Это
будет бомба, мега.
Across people around the world.
I think that's a fantastic change. That's always been one of the like saddest parts. Is like they're on EU and I'm on, you know, US East, and then my other friend's on US West.
Like,
how do we get us all together? You know, like okay, somebody has to make a sacrifice there.
Да, офигенно.
And so that seems like a really positive change. So far, you guys are killing it. I'm loving all. I mean, absolutely. I just want to say, like, I'm loving all of the changes and all of the decisions that have been made. It feels like you're really respecting the integrity of the game, but really bringing in a lot of that quality of life because
Nintendo.
Diablo 2 just
Я
has
думаю,
some
что
of
это
those pain
разрабы,
points, like
это
muling and separate servers and all of
Я
that.
думаю, что они это.
So I just want to throw that out there really quick.
There's a lot of love
Я думаю,
and
что
care
они
going
родственники
on
твои.
into this. Like we're very passionate about Diablo 2.
Nintendo, все крутые программисты и разрабы
I can even give you a little anecdote of,
родом оттуда,
when
откуда ты.
Started on the team. I was asking around too, naturally as a designer.
И даже, знаешь, группа System of a Down?
System of a Down. On a remaster, so I asked around, like, what kind of files and leftover archives do we have from before, from
Such
Blizzard
a
North?
lonely day.
And I was told, like, I was given some, and like I was told that was it, which I quickly disbelieved because I like to just do my own little digging arounds to find out things. So I dug around a lot in a lot of archives, and I looked around in different teams as well, because naturally a game from 20 years ago, people have moved on different teams, and like where has data moved around across our other games.
Они тоже оттуда.
So it was within folders, I like to say, that I found a lot.
Да, я обожаю. System of a Down, офигенная группа.
A lot of things like within folders of saying stuff we should archive. And there's a lot of stuff to archive indeed, because there are a lot of things like we're talking like loneliest day of my life. That Blizzard North used to create
Such a lonely day. Вот это сейчас
all
играю.
these things I spent months and months organizing and communicate that out to the team. That I can't stand.
The most loneliest day of my life. The most loneliest day of my life. Such a lonely day.
On that day when he found that, I think that really helped me greatly. We sent all that
Day that I'll never
miss.
Such a lonely day. And it's mine. The most loneliest day of my life. And if you go, I wanna go with you. And if you die, I wanna die with you. Take your hand and walk away.
Офигеть. Охренеть.
The most loneliest day of my life. The most loneliest day of my life. The most loneliest day of my
Cinematics too, you know, like a lot of cinematics cover the same locations. Think of like Tal Rasha's tomb with Bale in front of it, and there's all those ruins going on behind him. Finding sources like that to try to match as much as possible was a goal, and I'm glad to say we did find those kinds of things and matching it very well. So it's helping our cinematics too.
There was even concepts we repurposed. Like we found a couple concepts that were amazing from 20 years ago. The Bloodhawk and the Bloodhawk Nest, and we used that completely to rebuild our new asset.
I mean, that's fascinating. I feel like I could just sit here for hours and hours, days, if you guys talk through every single thing.
Find something that could work out. I'm very meticulous.
Офигенная тема.
Re-rendering them out in a way that we can actually see it in higher detail and like see like
Software version 7.0. Looking at life through the eyes of a tired heart. Eating seeds as the past toxicity of our city, of our city. Yo, what do you own the world? How do you own disorder? Disorder. No, somewhere between the sacred silence and sleep. Somewhere between the sacred silence and sleep. Disorder, disorder, disorder. Fires, loud neighbors, flashlight reveries caught in the headlights of a truck, eating seeds as a pastime activity, the toxicity
Black Knights, and those are actually the same Chaos Knights you see in Diablo 1.
Новые модели.
So like sometimes some of the things that aren't even sourced out in Diablo 1 were useful for us for reference, so we could make the new stat.
Так надо на Вика Warframe зайти и загуглить. Где фарминг? Где фарминг? Зараженный опухоль. Warframe.
You guys need to do a just like developer archaeology discussion at some point where you just sit down and talk played so much Diablo 2, and I know so many interesting at the game right. When there's like more to be discovered, it's like, oh man, I'm like getting what do you own the world? How do you own the How are we handling duping? How are we handling bots? How are we handling, just anything around that realm downs?
На миссии спасения на Улье на Ириде. На миссии спасения службы выращивания блокады камеры заключенного. На миссии Улья 5 дают неуязвимость ульям зараженных. Как пульсирующая плоть зараженных, встроенная в поверхность двумя шариками оранжевого цвета. Опухоль легко следить при помощи сканера синтеза или сканера кодекса.
But all of that should be far more secure now. Now, we do still allow you to play offline, right? You will need to authenticate that your copy is legit, but after that, you won't be bothered. And so, there's a reason why we leave those characters quarantined away from...
Стой. Офигеть, какая Diablo Resurrected. Какая менюха, блин, топовая.
Online?
I mean, yeah, we have a server team working on it, and these are some of their efforts, right? We want to stop the bots, stop duping as much as possible. There's a lot of strides happening in the back end of things.
So, I'm excited to play this game, and I'm sure a lot of other people are really excited. How can we sign up for this closed beta, and when will this game be coming out?
Actually, we will be doing a technical alpha, and you can sign up on our webpage today for future waves of invites. As for the game itself, it will be releasing 2021.
Well, 2021 выйдет. Thank you to the remastering team right here. I absolutely am blown away by how much effort and how much passion you guys are putting into this game and into Diablo 2.
Passion.
I've loved Diablo 2 for 20 years.
Я люблю Diablo 2.
I never thought that the game could get
никогда не
better.
подумал,
But I think you guys are respecting the integrity while upgrading and adding and improving. And I think this is going to overall just better the game. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you having me on and for all of the hard work you've done.
Awesome, thank you. Lūšas vpēdējais means the world to us. 2021 году. You and people like you who keep the game going.
Много людей, которым оно нравится.
For 20 years, like that's if you
guys didn't do that,
this might not be happening, right? We see the passion.
Это мы увидим
what
страсть.
You do and what your colleagues do, like. So thank you even more. And thanks for coming to do this. This was fun.
Поддерживает нас. Ждем Diablo 2. Воскрешение Diablo 2 в 2021 году. Блин, это просто что-то невероятное. Diablo Resurrected. Return to 2021. Офигеть. Молодцы, Blizzard. Молодцы. Так, а ну давай посмотрим Full Presentation Open World Futures Diablo 2. А теперь немножко Diablo 4. Diablo 4 What's Next? BLIZZCON. Главный антагонист серии Лилит.
Ever since we announced Diablo 4 at last BlizzCon 2019, we've been sharing updates with you guys through our blog, whether it's items, skills,
это Diablo 4
user interface updates, and
прокачка, дерево прокачки какое.
Today, to mark the special occasion of BlizzCon Line on Blizzard's 30th anniversary, rather than doing a blog, we're actually going to share lots of video, introduce a new class like we saw in opening ceremonies, and also cover some open world topics, including
открытый мир, можно будет кататься на лошади. Блин, Diablo 4 тоже.
This is the dream. It's all finally out there, and we can talk about all of it.
Just in case some of you guys missed it during opening ceremony, let's take another look at the Rogue Announce video.
Геймплей за Хантера, за охотника, за убийцу. Blizzard Entertainment представляет. Мы это, по-моему, смотрели сегодня. Ну, еще раз. Футаж за игровой процесс, за убийцу. На демонов. В Diablo 4, которая выйдет неизвестно когда. Через год, через два, может быть. Надо мониторить, смотреть твит разрабов.
Mercy. What are you doing here? This is not the time. But this is confession.
Ушко принесли. Ушки на десерт. Святой Отец. Вор, да. За вором.
I strayed from your light and found my trade in the shadows.
Да, ну графа, конечно, Diablo 4 там, конечно, еще выше уровень, чем в Resurrected, конечно, да. Но это не игровой процесс, это же нам показывают ролик с Diablo 4. Ну, непосредственно сам игровой процесс очень похож на Diablo 2 Resurrection.
You mock our light, but those monsters were a scourge upon my flock.
Чего там Nintendo нашел, это то, что ты ищешь. На Ириду надо идти, на спасение.
Then we are settled, and you owe me. The name you see is. Thank the heavens for you.
Не нашел?
Heavens.
А, у нее тоже ушка нема. А, потому она уши отрезает, бы ей отрезали уши. Офигеть! Какая она крутая. А, вот какая графа. Ну да. Это как Diablo 3, но еще круче графика. Офигеть. Офигеть просто. Просто офигеть. Вау, за охотника офигенный. По-моему, охотник еще круче, чем друид. Офигеть, это что? Ну что, фанаты Lost Ark, нервно курите в сторонке? кто там в Lost Ark играет. Я говорил, Diablo это самая крутая фишка и прародитель всего и вся. И никакие корейцы и китайцы никогда не перепрыгнут Diablo 4. И Diablo 3 тоже. И 2 Resurrection. Ушки на макушке. Святой отец, какое у вас интересное хобби. Скелеты в шкафу. Так это не скелеты в шкафу, это уши в шкафу. Ушки коллекционирует святой отец.
When that guy takes the ear and he stretches it onto that
а на него работает убийца, который борется со злом.
That ear box never gets old, you know. I always wonder where all those ears from Diablo 2 when you kill other players went.
Now you know there's some creepy guy in a church collecting ears and putting them in a box.
Creeping guy.
That's what we always thought.
No spoilers, but we're going to be hearing a little bit more about World PvP a little bit later in the segment.
Открытый мир будет в Diablo 4.
But let's go back to the class because there's just nothing more exciting to be able to introduce to a Diablo game than another class for players to check out.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. We don't get to do this very often, right?
I think it was you that said that, John. There's always room around the campfire. We had kind of like very core archetypes to begin with. The brute strength of the barbarian, the arcane knowledge of the sorceress, kind of a return of a shape-shifting classic with the druid. No RPG lineup is complete without that dexterity class that's kind of like defeating enemies with finesse, with speed.
Варвар,
we kept coming back to just the idea of bringing it to the, kind of the godfather of all dexterity-based archetypes, the rogue that we saw in Diablo 1.
I mean, you got to be excited to have the rogue back. I mean, I know that like when we were exploring different classes, like you had talked about some of your experience with Diablo 1, right?
Oh, for sure. So one of the things that's super cool is like the rogue was always able to adapt their playstyle. So fans of Diablo 1, Diablo 2 rogues will be able to create very archetypical rogues, starting with the weapon selection. On the melee weapon side, rogues can use swords and daggers.
Назад, блин.
Diablo 1, Diablo 2 rogues will be able to create very archetypical rogues, starting with the
Офигеть. Обалдеть.
Weapon selection. On the melee weapon side, rogues can use swords and daggers.
Два даггера.
As well as bows and crossbows on the ranged side.
You know, just those sort of dagger attacks mixed with bow attacks, it's like, it just looks great on screen. With all the classes having this real strong identity as far as the animations and what they do, you think about the druid and shape-shifting, or the barbarian with sort of, you know, his leap attacks. There's just all these great things that you discover with the rogue that you can't really do with other classes.
I love that you can start cosmetically from such a iconic place where you're wearing the red armor, you kind of look like part of the sisterhood of the Sightless Eye from the original games. You know, you can maybe even add some tattoos into the mix, some scars, make that rogue your own. Or if your fantasy of the rogue is a more traditional RPG outlaw, you're definitely able to create that and put on your kind of hood and half mask and be more of a shadowy character.
Yeah, and the character customization, you kind of mentioned it, being able to craft that, you know, that the class of your dreams. It was a feature that I was honestly super nervous about when we started, because we never had this in a Diablo game. But seeing where it is now, it's one of those things that like I'm super excited about with where we're at. There's just a lot of creativity and fun looks, and you can be that you know, tattooed criminal outlaw, or you can be a more noble looking kind of, you know, sort of like thief with good morals.
Well, one of the things that we kind of kept running with beyond just the cosmetics was customization. We had this niche to fill in the class lineup that spoke to the finesse player, to the dexterity player, and just that everyone's idea of what that could be was a little bit different, whether it leaned more on range or melee. But we took that a little bit of a step further. We really wanted to have each class in our game have that one thing that makes you go like, that's bullshit when you see a player use it, and then makes you want to re-roll that class because no other class gets it. For the rogue, it's the class specialization. The 3 specializations are combo points, Shadow Realm, and exploit weakness.
I like Shadow Realm because I take the problem and I make it smaller. I just pull 3 guys into the Shadow Realm and duke it out, and then I come back in. I'm like, all right.
I love the idea of exploit weakness. The way it works is during some of the enemy attacks, players will see.
Свиток телепорта, скиллуха.
An icon flash over the enemy's head, during which time they will get to retaliate with much more damage than an ordinary attack. If you're quick on the draw, this is the specialization for you. I'm just like a little bit skill capped there, and you know, like every time I try to make it work, I'm just a little bit shy of the skill level that's required for that.
It's almost like you're a surgeon, and it requires a really strong ability to assess what's happening all around you.
My personal favorite is the combo point specialization. As you might expect, this ability lets you build multiple combo points which enhance your spender's effectiveness in combat. It basically, you just like get into this rhythm of combat of like 3 builders to a spender, lets you build up to these big moments. It almost makes like a rhythm game out of combat, which I really enjoy. And the way the class specializations work is you will work with one of the world groups of rogues around the world in Sanctuary that you will find and do class-specific quests that no other class can do. Whether it's the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye, the remnants of that order that you choose to work with, or the mercenaries of Kyrgyzstan, or the outlaw smugglers of the swamps of Hawazar, depending maybe on what speaks to your class fantasy, or depending on which specialization
Diablo 3 вышло
more powerful,
10 лет,
you'll be able
ее
to
делали
complete that quest line and then
2002-2012 вышло.
which then you can
То есть есть подозрение, что Diablo 4 выйдет в 2022, скорее всего. Тоже 10 лет после выхода Diablo 3 в 2012-2022. В 2021 вот в этом году, что сейчас, выйдет Diablo 2 Resurrection, плюс есть большая вероятность, что Diablo Immortal на мобилке выйдет. Так, чтобы вообще не разочаровать игроков, фанов Diablo, они выпускают ремастеринг, полностью Resurrection, возрождение Diablo 2, который не хуже сделали, чем Diablo 4. Мы недавно смотрели футаж геймплей.
And so giving that sense of
скорее всего, выйдет Diablo 4.
Every time I play the game, I feel it, I see it in just like subtle ways, and just really enhances the overall sense of immersion and experience. And I just want to see what's around the corner.
The weapons are also like going back all the way to Diablo 2, just such an integral part of the class, and the ability to augment your weapon through magic, through enhancements, is just something that really spoke to us when we tried to tap into the core of the class. Going back to those mercenaries that you could hire, it was always kind of cool to see what kind of special arrow shot they would come with. And it's something we paid homage to with the imbue system. All the way from directly elemental imbues like the frost imbue, which feels a lot like the ice arrows that the D2 mercenaries used to shoot, all the way to we expanded to feel a little grittier, a little darker into things like poison imbue and shadow imbue. Just the ability to take any sort of attack and kind of mix and match with those imbues.
Once that kind of clicked for me that I could take any ability and imbue it with either of those elements. Rain of Arrows with frost and Rain of Arrows with acid is completely different, right? Like you're essentially freezing the battlefield. And then I just love Poison Imbue because of the gruesome death that all the monsters experience.
Чтобы игра, не дай бог, не лагала.
Потому
что то количество мобов, которые там бывает, происходит такие миссии, где там мобов просто бесконечность натянута.
It's a really flexible way to take a build that you're already comfortable with, that you already like. Say you're really comfortable with flurry and shadow step as kind of your melee skills. And you find yourself needing more control, without changing your playstyle, you can just add the frost imbue to your bar, and now you're able to use those same abilities to slow down enemies or build up to a full freeze.
Yeah, and frost imbue plays pretty well with group play as well, right? You know, where I can freeze an enemy and somebody else can blow it up.
Or also the way that like chills work in the game, they build up to a full freeze. So if your best buddy is a sorceress player, your chill spells and your frost imbued chills will actually build up faster than if you were using a single player. So, just ask to open with Blizzard before you frost imbue, and you'll basically be freezing enemies twice as fast.
Сетевая игра, сетевую игру показали немножко.
The last thing that's worth spending some time talking about the Rogue is like how mobile the class is, just how able the class is to kind of close the gap between themselves and the enemy. Even while they're mounted, you might find yourself, a full screen away and just dismounting into a rain of arrows, closing the rest of that gap with maybe like a dash, and then getting back out of there, dropping some caltrops. They can basically control the fluid motion of combat in a way that no other class can. That's something that beyond all of the other customization options that you have, whether it's the playstyle, whether it's the range at which you engage with enemies, whether it's the cosmetics,
просто обалдеть
just
какая
the
крутая.
sheer mobility of the class lets you just adapt to the situations. Even when you would have totally been toast as another class, a room full of elites, you're able to use offensive abilities in creative ways. Abilities like Shadow Step, right? Like abilities like Shadow Realm, abilities like Dash. So you're able to kind of like use them to your advantage in a way that gets you out of a very dangerous situation by picking that one lone skeleton archer that maybe is not surrounded by everything else. You can Shadow Step there, get out of the way, and live to fight another day, which just feels like such a Rogue thing to do.
When I play the Rogue, I really do feel like surgical precision. I really feel like I can move through the whole screen without. It feels kind of effortless, and almost sometimes a little unfair. It's like when I go into Shadow Realm and I'm dashing, I'm like, am I cheating? Did I just break the game?
And we'll hear more about PvP in a little bit, but I just couldn't go without mentioning that some of our most feared PvP players on the team play Rogue, and just the way they're able to like surprise you. You might be with a group of friends, and just that mobility lets them go to the middle of the group, unleash a rain of arrows that's frost imbued, and before you know it, you're all frozen and looking at a Rogue while you're frozen. Let me tell you, there are fewer scarier things in our game right now than that.
So Luis, this was this was like the ultimate blog post. This has been a lot of fun getting to share a new addition to the campfire. And of course, there's probably going to be more in the future, right? We always say there's a little bit more room around that campfire.
That's right, and that pretty much wraps it up for the Rogue. So why don't we go to Joe and Karina and learn a little bit more about those open world features that we promised.
Well, thank you to Luis and John for introducing the Rogue, which I'm really excited that we finally got a chance to talk about and announce to the community. And we're here today to talk to you about Diablo 4 and the open world. Now, I think maybe the best way to start this conversation, Karina, would be just for me to ask you, like, what are you most excited about when we're adding in Diablo 4 for the open world? What feature, what mechanic, what are you most excited to talk about first?
I am really excited about just exploring the world. I'm a huge completist naturally, that's the way I play, and I love exploring and looking around at every single nook and cranny. The more this game has been growing, particularly since last BlizzCon, the more fun I am having just riding around the open world on my mount and exploring everything I possibly can.
It's really fun, I think, now that we've kind of taken Sanctuary and just made it so much larger when you're playing through the game. When you compare it to like Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, there's tons of like exploration and movement throughout the world in those games, obviously. But now that we've really be able to embrace the open world concept, we can really dive much deeper into how Sanctuary actually all fit together, like be able to ride from Skazglen to the Fractured Peaks, like it's very, very interesting that way. One of the things about that I think is really neat is the collection aspect of mounts. So,
аспект коллекционера,
horse breeds and other mounts you can find throughout the world, from completing puzzles or just finding hidden locations or slaying certain particular kinds of monsters. Find various horses or things to customize your horse with, like horse armor. There are hoof plates you can get and trophies to show off your accomplishments. There's lots of different ways to make sure that you can personalize your mount, make it really feel like it's your companion.
Yeah, and it's really cool that, like you mentioned with the horseshoes, you get to actually change the speed at which your horse can run. And it's something I like to be able to customize the horse to the type of gameplay that I like to enjoy as a player. And it's really, really fun. I like the amount of variety that you give us.
And I mean, there's more to mounts than just that as well. So like one thing we know we didn't want to do with mounts in Diablo 4 is we didn't want to have like jousting, this idea of like fighting from horseback. It's not really the Diablo experience. right?
Yeah, that's something I'm super excited for. Like we showed like, last BlizzCon, we had the sorceress. We showed her dismount skill ice dash, where she shoots forward for a mount and destroys everything in her path. But with the rogue, we got to have a little bit more fun with it. And the animation department has done a fantastic job of having her leap up into the air and fire down like the rain of arrows that destroys everything. It's really, really cool. It feels really good.
You need like leaping from your saddle and just raining arrows down on your enemies as you pass by. Getting down the fray and then starting to like stab people and poison people. Like that is spot on what we're looking for. Being able to jump in, engage with enemies from your horse, and then just fight it out, duke it out.
It's interesting that your mount can't get damaged, but if a monster actually attacks you while you're mounted, you will actually be forced to dismount. So there is a flip side of actually judging for yourself when you do want to use that skill in order to prevent you from being forced off unintentionally.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of gameplay there to make sure that you're using it in a way that is most appropriate and help you get where you're trying to go, and also fight the monsters you want to fight. One of the things I'm most excited about for the open world right now is this feature we have called camps. So camps are basically these strongholds of evil out in the overworld. You know, you got to remember that decades ago, during the events of Reaper of Souls, when Malthael rose to power, the Reapers killed like 9 out of 10 people throughout Sanctuary. Like a tremendous number of people passed away. Now there's a big power vacuum out here. Decades later. And these monsters have started to move into these places. Bandits, monsters, goatmen, all kinds of different creatures, undead, have started to like resurface and come back into these areas and start to take them for themselves. You as a hero of Sanctuary get to kind of wander through these spaces and begin to reclaim them for the people of Sanctuary. That's part of what makes them really, really neat. Each of them have their own story, they're their own unique fixed place in the world.
Unlike quests are something that happens randomly in the world and you can come across them anyway. Camps are a permanent fixture that you as the player, when you come across that evil, you can actually have a real impact on the open world that everyone else can see, because once you have defeated that evil, one of the really fun things is that you basically unlock that camp and you make a new waypoint that previously didn't exist for yourself, but like suddenly all the marketplaces open up and now you have a blacksmith vendor in a location that previously didn't exist, which I think is really, really cool.
Now, what we're looking at here, this was a village, the village of Karayisu, which now has fallen to ruins. The people here in the Dry Steppes had a problem. The problem was there were bloodthirsty cannibals that dwelled nearby and regularly raid their community. And the people had to come up with a solution. They weren't strong enough to defend themselves from these cannibals, so they made a dark bargain with a demon. And they were able to gather enough power to push these cannibals out and protect their community, but not without great cost, as you can see here. You're kind of helping resettle parts of Sanctuary in many ways when you take these camps back from the enemy. Vendors will come back, and now suddenly there might be like new quest givers, new stories need to be told. Dungeon entrances can appear in some of these places afterwards. Like, there's all kinds of things that occur after you take over the camp and liberate it from these forces of darkness. And again, it's just so cool to see you permanently change the world as you find these places and kind of wander through and solve these problems. One of the other neat things about camps, and in general, like the overworld, just broadly speaking, is we have so many more opportunities now to kind of play with movement.
It pushes the bar vertically as well as horizontally.
Такую механику я, знаете, где видел? В Lost Ark. Теперь уже Diablo 4. Теперь уже разработчик Blizzard Lost Ark позаимствовали, наверное, механику перепрыгивания, лазания по стенам и так далее. То есть Lost Ark взял у Diablo фишку, ну, они реально перекатали у них под копирку геймплей, добавили вот эти прыжки, лазания. Diablo 4 разработал Blizzard, думаю, почему бы нам тоже это не сделать, наверное.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Karina, I know that you're very excited about PvP.
О, сейчас расскажешь.
I'm a huge fan of PvP. I love the first time that we all actually had a chance to, as a whole team, play PvP, because the amount of feedback that generated, I think it took design like 3 days to go through it all. And what that showed me is that I find everyone they either love it or they hate it. And I personally love it. I really enjoy it.
Мне это и нравится, я это и не люблю.
Is that the hatred of Mephisto has been bubbling up from hell. and has created these areas in the open world that you can freely walk into that kind of
вот это PvP. То есть игрок в открытом мире может на тебя напасть.
These fields of hatred, right? Even in these spaces, it's not like mandatory. So these are optional places players can choose to go to kind of collect shards of hatred that they can collect from like killing monsters, from completing events, opening chests, all kinds of ways to earn these things, not necessarily just killing players. And as you earn these shards of hatred, they're kind of in an unpurified state. They're in a basic state. You need to bring them to a purification event in order to turn them into a currency that you can then use in the nearby like small encampments around the hatred. What's really neat about that is that when you're trying to purify these things, that's when everyone nearby finds out that someone's actually trying to complete purification, which means to go and kill those players and take all of their shards before they finish. Once you purify them, they're yours. You can't lose them. But before they're purified, they're free game.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that, like, even if you don't want to engage with other PvP players, you can actually explore those areas and collect the shards of hatred from specifically monsters. But the second you need to then turn them in and purify them into a currency where you can spend them on gear, trophies, and other content.
То есть вон игрок PvP-шный, что он просто приходит на тебя, начинает агриться, или ты должен дать ему добро какое-то? Окей, давай PvP-шный.
So you call out earlier that the shards of hatred are used for like some of the vendors you find in the fields of hatred. There are some special vendors that only kind of arrive in these areas. Will have special costumes or new mounts and weapons and things along those lines. Nothing that's like strictly more powerful than stuff you can get in other parts of the game, but stuff that really like speaks to your desire as a PvP player. And I think one of the things that's really kind of neat about the system in general is that as a player, you choose to go hostile, betray the players that are near you, try to get as many shards as you can. You're going to slowly begin to kind of like infuse yourself with that same purpose of the fifth and you're going to become a vessel of hatred. Now, once you do that, everyone within a very large radius of you is going to be able to see you as a threat on the map. And they're going to get a bonus for killing you. So when that occurs, you have a set amount of time you need to survive. And if you're able to do that without running away or jumping in a town portal and trying to escape, if you're able to do that and finish that period and manage to escape or defeat your people who are coming to try to destroy you, you're going to get a really big bonus at the end. And that's been really, really exciting to watch in our playtest already. So we're like kind of wrestling for the status and then trying to defend it once they actually achieve it.
Yeah, and there's also the ears that you get to collect as a trophy. It harkens back to
трофеи какие-то показывают.
I think you could sell the ears for 1 gold. I don't know if we're going to be doing that. I know we were playing around with them as currency at one point, but I think right now it's just a cool trophy that you get to collect and show off.
Yeah, right now, very, very cool trophy. The thing that's really neat about the Diablo 2 ears, like you can fill up your whole inventory with them, obviously, but being able to see like the people that you took the ears from, like seeing their character names on there, was always like the interesting, fun part. Kind of like proof, like yeah, I got that person that time, right? So we want to make sure that we embrace that aspect.
Короче, жду Diablo 2 Resurrection, Diablo 4, скорее всего, в 22-м.
Right, yeah. So I love where PvP is going, and I
love
that
показали на BlizzCon игровой процесс. То есть игра не стоит на месте, они показали, что они что-то делают. Они даже рассказали, показали Resurrection 2, который, скорее всего, скоро выйдет. Работа на Diablo 4.
In general, as a Diablo fan, there's a lot to be looking forward to in the
Diablo Immortal, который вместе с китайской фирмой.
Thank you so much for watching today. We look forward to speaking to you more about this game.
Больше, наверное, на китайский рынок определено. Full presentation. Houston, Mayday. Опа, Нингуан. Нингуана Нинтендовна. Нингуана Нинтендовна. Подписывайтесь на канал Sabo. Спасибо при поддержке Nintendo. Сегодня посмотрели REASTREAM BlizzCon от 19 февраля. Всем спасибо и пока, до встречи. Скоро будем начинать скоро Rage. Хочешь прикол? Посмотри, сколько просмотров. А, скромняга, Sabo. Скромняга. Это просмотр стрима. Я не знаю, почему он так выстрелил. Вообще хз. Go Warf на полчасика комнату глянешь, потом уже. А, warframe. Ну давай warframe. Видел сколько? Это был стрим 30 марта, почти год назад, когда начался коронавирус. И посмотри, сколько просмотров. Сколько просмотров. Ну, для меня это unbelievable. Это просто что-то нечто невероятное. Смотри, сколько. 171 лайк, 126 40 257. Как вам такое? Ну, это просто это что-то невероятное. Она просто выстрелила. Какая-то бомба какая-то. Война миров Z. Ну, окей, народ. Нингуани, Nintendo, мне привет передавайте. Nintendo, спасибо за поддержку. Смотрели мы BLIZZCON REASTREAM. Показали очень интересный Diablo 2 Resurrection, Diablo 4, информация по Overwatch 2, это самое интересное. Там дополнение по этому Warcraft'у, World of Warcraft новое вышло. Удивительно. Игра до сих пор поддерживается, выходят дополнения новые. Что-то просто невероятное происходит. Ну что ж, всем спасибо. До встречи через несколько минут. Начнем стрим по варфрейму, по просьбе трудящихся. А там дальше будет видно. Да, Nintendo. Nintendo. Давай напоследок какую-то песенку врублю. Так, чтоб меня забанили уже окончательно. Так, какую бы врубить такую песню? О, Лига Легенд давай. Лига Легенд. Ну, копирайт Лига Легенд. Все, народ, всем пока-пока-пока. Еще раз спасибо Nintendo. До встречи в Warframe.